Hirasawa Kazuki, an ordinary university student, suddenly receives a mysterious notice that threatens his future. He finds himself trapped in an unfamiliar body and world, questioning why he ended up in such a dangerous situation. Chaos erupts around him as objects fall and the environment shatters, testing his ability to react quickly. Surrounded by others, Kazuki faces blame and must take responsibility for the destruction that occurred. He bows repeatedly, apologizing, as others demand accountability, and he clings to hope for survival and understanding. Kazuki realizes that the strange situation might be a game event, hinting at an unusual connection. He recalls the console game Brave Hearts, where Liner, the protagonist, must stop a plot to destroy the world. Kazuki remembers the game's exciting battle system, hidden dungeons, an engaging story that kept him invested for hours. He admits he is addicted, having memorized all the dialogue and events, unable to mistake anything. Kazuki studies the Stokes family, Hayden, Jessica, and Clara, understanding their roles and how they affect the unfolding situation. Kazuki questions the reality of the game world, wondering where he was and how he arrived. He finds himself thrown into a sudden depressing event, observing the chaos around him. A flashback reveals Clara, the mother of the heroine, facing danger while Harold is protected by her care. Kazuki watches silently as the family dynamics unfold, realizing the gravity of the situation. Clara reassures Harold, calming him, while Kazuki feels both relief and disbelief at the unfolding events. Hayden raises his sword, threatening Colette, determined to punish her severely for perceived wrongs. Colette pleads for mercy, while others, including Kazuki, watch the tense confrontation unfold. Kazuki steps forward, surprising everyone, offering to execute Colette himself to test new magic skills. He justifies his actions as training for Colette, aiming to channel her into a controlled purpose. Hayden commands his guards to throw Colette into the dungeon, amused, while Kazuki maintains his unnerving composure. Hayden verbally attacks Colette, mocking her for failing tasks despite the family's support. Jessica adds that Colette will be useful for Harold's magical experiments, reinforcing her inferiority. Kazuki silently observes, uneasy but calculating his next move, feeling the weight of the situation. He reflects on his knowledge from the original story, understanding his younger self's role and limitations. Kazuki focuses on Harold Stokes, recognizing him as the most despised character in Brave Hearts, plotting how to navigate this dangerous scenario. Kazuki reflects on Justice, the last boss, knowing he is doomed to die in the game's story. He questions his reality, wondering if he has been possessed or is trapped in a dream. Struggling with the shock of becoming Harold, a mysterious voice instructs him to enter, catching him off guard and forcing him to act instinctively. He responds automatically, realizing the voice is independent of his own thoughts, heightening his unease. Norman appears, formally addressing Kazuki, signaling that new challenges and guidance await him in the unfolding game world scenario. Norman, the conscience of the Stokes, approaches Kazuki, explaining his role as a sensible guide. He carefully observes Kazuki, concerned about his well-being and asking if he feels unwell. Kazuki insists he is fine, hiding his fatigue and trying to appear confident, despite his stress. He reflects on how his words must be filtered through Harold's persona, realizing the difficulty of communication. Norman implores Kazuki to mitigate the punishment imposed on Clara, signaling the stakes and expectations for his actions. Kazuki realizes that Harold controls Clara's life, and he must act to protect her, despite lacking intention in his words. He recalls that rescuing Clara would divert him from the original story, affecting his encounter with Liner, the protagonist. Kazuki considers the power to alter history, weighing the consequences of changing events and his future. He resolves to avoid death flags, understanding that any reckless action could drastically deviate the story. Kazuki decides to subtly guide events, keeping scenarios acceptable while maneuvering carefully to prevent tragedy and maintain control over outcomes. Kazuki struggles with the decision to save Clara, feeling unable to act freely, despite wanting to protect her. Norman urges him to take action immediately, reassuring Kazuki he will listen to his explanation afterward. Kazuki hesitates, but Norman insists, prompting him to move quickly to save Clara from danger. He collapses briefly, exhausted by the mental strain of balancing survival and careful choices. Kazuki contemplates giving up, reflecting on the risks and the possibility of returning to his original world if he dies. Kazuki refuses to act recklessly, fearing dying in the real world as well if he makes a wrong move. He examines the room, noticing scattered books and scrolls that could provide useful knowledge. Kazuki compares the items to those in Brave Hearts, realizing he can read and utilize them. He decides the best way to measure Harold's actions is by carefully following the original story. Kazuki considers whether this world is identical to Brave Hearts or a similar parallel, confirming the rules before acting. He resolves to fetch another clue, determined to break his death flags and safely guide events forward. Harold Stokes arrives at the dungeon, observing its tall structure. He confirms one prisoner exists. He instructs guards to stay outside, ensuring no one enters while he investigates the interior. Harold approaches the cell cautiously, ordering his companions to wait. Tension rises among them. Peering through the bars, Harold spots the imprisoned figure quietly waiting in the shadows, identifies her as Clara Ameller, confirming her identity and preparing to confront the situation. Harold Stokes questions Clara Ameller, requesting truthful answers about her situation and family. Clara reveals she has a daughter, Colette, and explains her estrangement from her husband. Harold understands Colette has no other relatives. Piecing together the girl's family history, he asks about Colette's age and experience with magic or martial arts. Concludes the situation aligns with the original story, considering the outcome excellent. Harold walks away after gathering all necessary information, leaving Clara pleading behind him. Clara begs Harold to protect Colette, fearing her daughter will have no relatives. She emphasizes that Colette has done nothing wrong, desperately asking Harold to help. Comments on Clara's fear and foolishness, observing her appearance calmly. He moves toward the cell, leaving Clara shocked, as he prepares to act decisively. Harold walks away, reflecting that consoling Clara was the best he could manage. Norman approaches Harold, presenting several rolled-up documents and maps for review. The documents detail Stokes's territory and settlements, revealing information about the region. Norman suggests relocating Colette outside Stokes's territory to ensure her safety. Harold considers the difficulty, stating it doesn't matter to him, deciding the plan's course. Norman confirms fleeing to a place outside Stokes' influence is the safest option. Identifies Blosh Village on the map, where the Liner family resides. Considers whether Colette can travel freely among other nobles' territories safely. Calculates necessary travel permits and wagons, including provisions for Colette and her daughter. Norman reflects on Harold's awareness of Colette's daughter, realizing Harold is more attentive than expected. Harold is praised for genuinely thinking about the people, even at a young age. Reflects that Harold may have isolated Colette to protect her, not boast. Norman resolves to give his all. Recognizing Harold has acted from the start, Hayden and his wife are described as elitists, disregarding common citizens' welfare. Discusses suitable living arrangements, weighing costs and opportunities, showing careful planning and concern. Harold is seen as a ray of hope, likely to change the Stokes family's future. The next day, a peaceful forest scene precedes Harold preparing for action. He attempts a magical spell, concentrating as he channels energy to execute it, casts the Flame Cram spell, creating a powerful pillar of fire. Is shocked by the result, realizing the spell's outcome is far more intense than expected. Harold feels hyped and amazed to finally use magic. Though he finds the chanting embarrassing, casts flames strategically, planning to make the burning area look convincing to avoid suspicion. Ensures the fiery pillar appears dramatic, simulating a corpse burning without raising alarms. He resolves to carry out the plan tonight, determined that failure will not be tolerated. Harold and Colette cautiously move through the forest at dusk, alert for any possible threats. Excitedly, Colette's child spots her mother across the field, running with joyful anticipation. Clutching her child tightly, Colette feels relief while others observe silently, watching them warmly. Suddenly, a figure appears, offering Harold and Colette a challenging decision that causes tension. The figure warns them clearly, leave immediately or confront certain death without any possible escape. Uncertain, Colette regards Harold, questioning the meaning and significance of the dangerous offer presented. Harold describes ending their lives now would be easier, expressing urgency and serious concern, determined to survive. Colette refuses death, insisting she and her child continue living together. Harold hands Colette a critical object, establishing it as essential for their safe departure. She is instructed to keep it safe, protecting it, and passing it properly later. Puzzled and wary, Colette struggles to understand Harold's instructions, feeling both fear and hesitation. Harold directs her to give the object to someone trustworthy, capable of providing protection. He stresses caution, warning them to avoid detection while emphasizing the dangers of any mistakes. Bowing deeply, Colette, her child, and companions show respect and gratitude for Harold's guidance. Observing quietly, Harold watches them depart, mindful of the risks that linger around them. Following Harold's orders, Norman moves ahead first, allowing others to trail carefully behind him cautiously. Standing alone, Harold contemplates the gratitude expressed toward him despite only performing a small role. He recalls accidentally colliding with Colette, causing her to fall, feeling slightly guilty for incident. Harold feels relief observing their peaceful state, acknowledging his plans successfully ensured their safety. Approaching Harold, an elder considers whether to intervene or allow him to complete final duties. Harold braces himself for confrontation, focusing his eyes on the threat approaching with careful precision. Shocked, the elder struggles to accept Harold's decisive actions, unsure about the consequences nearby, using flame cram. Harold strikes powerfully, unleashing a devastating attack against his incoming adversary. Calmly, Harold observes how his behavior appears to shift naturally within the ongoing narrative. Alone, he reflects. Grateful Norman is safely away, aware others perceive his actions differently. Surprised, Harold questions why the elder remains, ignoring prior instructions and lingering nearby silently. He insists the elder forget all observed events today, requiring strict secrecy without exceptions. Reflecting quietly, Harold realizes the elder carefully concealed vulnerabilities, protecting others through deliberate deception. Harold recognizes the elder's loneliness, understanding the deliberate avoidance of confrontation ensured everyone's ongoing safety. Aware, Harold notices how the elder's deception shields both his parents and the estate. Harold contemplates the elder's hidden suffering, realizing deeply the pain endured silently over many years. Determined, the elder pledges to compensate for lost time, dedicating his future intentionally. Harold resolves to protect the innocent child, ensuring the boy's heart remains safe and untroubled. Traveling cautiously, the group maintains vigilance, riding together across the landscape to ensure everyone's safety. Colette quietly observes her child, sleeping peacefully, feeling relief and a moment of calm. Finally, soldiers discuss Harold's careful preparations, noting his strategic planning and thoughtful approach for the journey. Harold instructs that Clara and Colette be safely left in Blosh village without risk. He gives precise instructions about gold coins and the sword, ensuring proper usage immediately. Harold stresses practicality, telling them to buy a simple sword rather than unnecessary expensive options. Gently, Colette wakes, holding the food Harold prepared, experiencing a small moment of quiet comfort. Approaching Blosh village, Colette takes time to appreciate the scenery, quietly enjoying the peaceful surroundings. As sunlight emerges over the horizon, it marks a new beginning for all traveling companions. Harold Stokes moved through the vast empty mansion hall, his powerful magic leaving nothing visible. His parents admired his remarkable skill, oblivious to the dangerous consequences of Harold's actions. A subtle smirk appeared on Harold's face, understanding that his parents couldn't truly comprehend risks. Alone in his private room, Harold contemplated the outcome of his carefully executed secret mission. Suddenly, Zen appeared, startling Harold, who calmly ordered him to close the door for privacy. Unexpectedly, Zen entered Harold's room, remembering the mysterious events from the night of the full moon. Harold grasped a spear, firmly cautioning Zen against speaking carelessly about sensitive and dangerous incidents. Realizing his position, Zen understood Harold wasn't expelling him, feeling relieved by the unexpected leniency. Harold quietly observed Zen, impressed by his considerate behavior despite differences in social and noble status. A soft smile crossed Zen's face while Harold planned carefully the most effective possible strategy. Harold offered Zen a chance to taste the peculiar crops he had cultivated diligently indoors. Observing carefully, Zen analyzed Harold's growing methods, noticing inconsistent watering and sporadic attentiveness towards the plants. Harold revealed that he had used a powerful life potion to accelerate the plant's growth. Carefully, he measured precise water ratios, ensuring each crop would survive properly without premature withering. Zen hesitated before tasting the raw produce, but Harold insisted, correcting his cautious hesitation. Zen sampled the crops Harold had nurtured, surprised by their unexpectedly rich sweetness and flavor. Harold felt a sense of pride in his innovative life potion farming techniques and strategy. He reflected on the hardships faced by farmers nearby, determined to improve their dire conditions. Harold instructed that the crops should be tested by others and assessed for market viability. He reminded Zen to maintain secrecy, and Zen agreed, smiling confidently without any hesitation. Harold watched as Zen departed, recognizing his companion's troublesome yet dedicated and earnest personality clearly. Pausing outside, Zen wondered about Harold's intense focus and persistent dedication to his current tasks. Practicing diligently, Harold refined his sword techniques in the courtyard, focusing on perfect precision. Each strike was executed under careful observation, ensuring flawless technique and absolute control throughout practice. Harold contemplated his own abilities and potential, appreciating the strength and skill he possessed thoroughly. Resolving to improve further, Harold aimed to match the magic and swordsmanship shown in original stories. Recognizing necessity, he acknowledged that combat skills were critical for surviving in this RPG-like world. Harold mentally prepared to confront the protagonist's party, anticipating challenges and potential conflicts along the way. Bracing himself for the trials ahead, he accepted the risks and challenges awaiting him fully. Looking over the distant wilderness, Harold silently committed to confronting the dangers and trials ahead. Erica considered the Stokes family, reflecting on their responsibilities and the challenges that awaited them all. She reassured her father about her duty, protecting the people as the Sumeraji family daughter. The spreading miasma threatened mountains and forests, causing illnesses and worsening the environmental situation significantly. Erica's father regretted sacrifices required to sustain the family's wealth, economy, and social position effectively. Despite her limitations, Yuno resolved to focus on responsibility rather than worrying about her personal situation. Erica looked thoughtfully into the distance, wind flowing past as she contemplated the burdens she bore. She resolved to dedicate all her energy and effort for the benefit of her people. Inside the estate, Harold Stokes scrutinized the financial papers carefully, while Kazuki observed quietly nearby. Every detail of the documents was checked meticulously by Harold, confirming no errors existed anywhere. With a small, reassuring smile, Kazuki ensured Harold understood this meeting wasn't intended to threaten. The realization struck Harold that the Stokes family finances had worsened steadily over recent years. Extravagant spending by his parents emerged as the core issue, burdening citizens and increasing debts. Harold Stokes listened attentively as Kazuki inquired whether he disagreed with the presented opinion clearly. Reluctantly, Harold admitted noticing the trend of rising emigration and the closure of farms. Urgency was emphasized by Kazuki, warning that financial mismanagement could cause the Stokes family collapse. Caution was Harold's approach as Kazuki imagined potential benefits arising from the family's financial ruin. Responsibility for agricultural management was formally assigned by Harold to Jake, giving explicit instructions clearly. Confused by Zen's cheerful attitude, Harold Stokes frowned, unsure what the comment truly meant exactly. A basket of sweet potatoes flew suddenly toward Harold, startling him with wide, shocked eyes. Zen insisted Harold enjoy the handmade red Groot while Kazuki silently observed, clearly amused nearby. Recognition dawned on Harold as he realized the sweet potatoes had been prepared, personally. Tasting one carefully, Harold discovered unexpected sweetness, his eyes widening with amazement and delight immediately. Proudly, Kazuki explained the crop's unique growth using a proprietary method, while Harold remained skeptical. Harold's assistance was requested by Kazuki to spread the cultivation technique with necessary specialized tools. Costs and feasibility calculations occupied Harold's mind as he examined the basket silently and thoughtfully. With caution, Harold agreed to assist if possible, promising maximum effort and full cooperation always. Kazuki warned of potential consequences, explaining that his father's anger might result in dungeon punishment. Kazuki stressed the natural response, emphasizing careful consideration, while Zen laughed and observed with amusement nearby. Harold was warned by Kazuki to think carefully and avoid causing unnecessary trouble or problems. The key was revealed by Kazuki, who prepared confidently to explain the innovative farming technique. Harold listened intently as Kazuki described the LP farming method, involving precise application of life potions. Sharing the system with local farmers was highlighted by Kazuki as minimizing financial risks effectively. The LP farming method's implementation emphasized by Kazuki combined multiple farms efficiently and focused on small-scale management. Expired life potions were demonstrated by Kazuki to show Harold how initial investments could be avoided. Rapid growth potential of the LP farming method was explained, depending on potion quantity and crop type. Crops cultivated using this method could bear fruit in only 5 to 7 days reliably. Kazuki reflected cautiously, understanding the risk to his personal safety if the LP method became public. Harvest limits were emphasized by Kazuki to prevent Harold's father from monopolizing the LP farming method entirely. Economic flexibility was explained as gradual testing of other crops while maintaining strict control, initially. Surprised by the detailed plan, Harold apologized, while the elder Stokes found the strategy admirable. Honest feedback was demanded by Kazuki, refusing yes men, insisting all specific details be openly discussed. Respectfully, Harold nodded, agreeing to follow guidance fully and acknowledging Kazuki's instructions without hesitation whatsoever. Harold's intelligence and ambition impressed the elder Stokes, demonstrating careful planning without selfishness or conceit always. Compassion and dedication to the populace were recognized by the elder Stokes, ignoring personal gain entirely. Jake was asked by Kazuki to become Harold's arms and legs, providing complete support reliably. Strength and effort were pledged by Jake solely for Harold-sama, ensuring the safety of all. At the Stokes estate, Harold informed young Harold that his marriage had been officially arranged. The alliance between the two families promised strengthened lineage, surprising Harold with unknown marriage news. Harold mentioned the need for audiences in Sumeragi territory, unsettling him about his fiancée. Discovering Sumeragi family's reluctance to support monarchy increased the Stokes family's social standing prestige. Despite agreeing to support finances, the Sumeragi daughter belonged to a noble family, dismissive of others. Harold Stokes noticed the Sumeragi territory's damaging miasma, complicating the upcoming engagement conversation significantly. Calm reflection allowed him to think strategically and plan carefully for approaching potential challenges. Researching herbs in books, Harold noted anise hyssop, gat fein fang, and real weed carefully recorded. Cross-referencing every detail ensured Harold retained all necessary information to protect both family and interests. Considering Tasuku Sumeragi's wisdom, Harold recognized careful, subtle actions were essential to avoid death flags. Harold Stokes contemplated gaining Tasuku Sumeragi as ally, increasing freedom and support for other individuals. Each decision required weighing potential consequences, as deviations might unexpectedly alter events in the story. Working diligently on farming research, Harold guided helpers while maintaining focus through daily interruptions steadily. Chaos arose when assistants misbehaved, but Harold continued calmly, persevering with tasks without losing patience. Meticulously revising plans, Harold left detailed notes reflecting his careful preparation and strategic planning process. Considering Tasuku Sumeragi's support, Harold found it safer to act and assist protagonist allies carefully. He decided that acquiring Tasuku as ally outweighed potential risks, despite unforeseen consequences possibly arising. Harold continued his farming methods diligently, ensuring focus persisted despite interruptions from Liner and other helpers. Even amid disruptions, Harold calmly handled chaos, maintaining productivity in tasks throughout the estate's demanding environment. Arriving at Sumeragi Estate, Harold noticed Erica, cautious of her demeanor, yet recognizing her formidable presence. Harold considered the effects if Erica gained judgment and kindness, while agreeing to her engagement carefully. Reflection led him to understand Erica's importance as healer within the protagonist party's critical operations. Avoiding all death flags alone wouldn't suffice, and ultimate destruction could occur without careful planning. He weighed his conscience carefully, realizing he must earn Erica's positive impression from their very first meeting. Tasuku Sumeragi introduced himself and family formally, presenting both Erica and his wife Koyomi to Harold. Introducing himself respectfully, Harold aimed to make a strong, favorable impression during his initial meeting encounter. Erica responded politely, her composed demeanor displaying kindness and careful attention during this first crucial interaction. Observing her lifeless eyes, Harold contemplated methods to effectively communicate and connect meaningfully with Erica personally. The Sumeragi family suggested leaving Harold and Erica alone, giving opportunity for trust and feelings to grow. Harold seized this chance, and Erica agreed to guide him through the estate. Creating opportunity, Erica led Harold through various estate areas, showing him directions while maintaining proper formal and respectful decorum. Harold expressed that having Erica as escort was an honor, bracing himself for inevitable challenges ahead. Harold Stokes approached the ancient cherry blossom tree, sensing something important awaiting him. Erica Sumeragi stood under the tree, calmly introducing herself as Tasuku Sumeragi's daughter. Harold responded, confirming his identity and acknowledging the significance of this meeting. Erica explained the cherry blossom tree symbolized the Sumeragi family for over 5 centuries. Harold observed, realizing this cherry blossom differed from what he previously knew about its meaning. Harold Stokes explained the resemblance to someone else, showing little concern for the Sumeragi family. Erica Sumeragi questioned Harold, noticing his unusual reaction to her family's prestige and name. Harold internally noted a misunderstanding, realizing Erica might misinterpret his intentions entirely. He clarified that his Stokes family was equally prominent, surprising Erica and challenging her assumptions. Harold worried his words could derail his original goal, leaving Erica visibly upset and confused. Harold Stokes handed Erica an envelope, instructing her to deliver it to her father. Erica refused, remaining firm while Harold warned her about consequences for inaction. Harold suggested the envelope might contain a way to save her suffering people. Erica considered the possibility as Harold hinted she had nothing to lose. The two finally exchanged the envelope under the cherry blossom tree, a silent understanding forming. Erica accepted the envelope cautiously, uncertain whether she could fully trust Harold Stokes. Harold returned home and immediately began questioning his staff about LP farming method progress. He confirmed usable fields and trial schedules, instructing his staff to continue listening to Jake. Harold reflected on Norman's competence and the smooth progress of their plans behind the scenes. He concluded that Erica, caring for her people, would likely deliver the letter to Tasuku. Harold described the antibiotics compound and miasma range, noting it wouldn't fully solve the problem. He considered approaching Tasuku through other means, if the letter failed to convince him. Erica successfully took the letter, achieving Harold's immediate goal and ensuring the plan could progress. A few days later, Harold rigorously trained others, pushing them to improve their swordsmanship skills. He insisted on strict preparation, warning them that failure or lack of readiness would have consequences. Harold struggled with combat training, realizing most opponents lacked the strength to challenge him. A visitor arrived unexpectedly, prompting Harold to question who could have come to see him. Harold's surprise grew as he recognized the visitor, Erica Sumeragi, standing before him seriously. Harold stiffened instantly as Erica appeared unexpectedly, worried she might disrupt his LP farming trials. He questioned why she came personally instead of sending a messenger, wondering her true purpose. Calmly sipping tea, Erica's expression remained unreadable, leaving Harold uncertain about her intentions entirely. Accepting a courteous gesture, she maintained politeness while carefully keeping distance from Harold consistently. Approaching cautiously, Harold questioned her presence, while Erica stayed composed, leaving him unsure how to respond. Confronting Erica, Harold became frustrated, insisting she should feel thankful for his reluctant attention immediately. Gesturing with impatience, he demanded she explain the reason for her sudden unexpected visit promptly. Bowing respectfully, Erica expressed sincere gratitude on behalf of the Sumeragi family for Harold's efforts. Harold acknowledged Tasuku's antibiotics worked effectively, recognizing the family had been saved quickly through intervention. Clarifying the medicine as temporary, he warned Erica about possible side effects, leaving her contemplative. Reflecting quietly, Erica realized Harold acted beyond obligation, preparing medicine faster than expected in advance. She wondered how Harold produced medicine so swiftly, despite the thorough investigation by Sumeragi authorities. Demanding a reason for her visit, Harold prompted Erica to present a letter from her father. The letter explained. Erica followed Harold's instructions, exactly, clarifying the Sumeragi family's intentions thoroughly. Officials formally expressed gratitude, acknowledging Harold's assistance and significant impact on their people effectively. Reviewing patient progress, Harold noted no immediate side effects from the medicine administered carefully. He examined the report carefully, considering whether additional unforeseen information might appear within the documents. A postscript revealed Sumeragi territory troubles, along with a personal request for Harold's immediate assistance. Harold learned he needed to care temporarily for Erica and the Stokes estate carefully. Erica showed concern, realizing living together while engaged could cause unexpected complications during their stay. Erica admitted reliance on Harold's generosity after the coach returned, showing vulnerability sincerely and openly. Harold scolded Erica for treating him as if her fiancé was somehow insignificant or unimportant. He refused further requests, explaining generosity had already been fully stretched beyond reasonable and adequate limits. Acknowledging Harold's stance, Erica decided not to ask more and quickly left the immediate area. Sitting alone, Harold contemplated the situation and sensed growing unease about complications that might unfold soon. Harold noticed the Stokes family coach approaching, feeling the uneasy premonition that had troubled him. Silently, he pondered the situation, preparing for possible events and complications that might arise immediately. A notice from Tasuku announced Erica would be staying temporarily at Harold's residence without delay. Harold confirmed he must pick her up, expressing reluctance to live together temporarily with Erica. Realizing his uneasy feeling was correct, Harold reflected on potential complications her arrival could cause. Harold realized Erica had planned from the beginning to stay, questioning her motives carefully and thoroughly. He reflected on the letter he had written, recognizing it triggered the sequence of events. Erica and her companion arrived at the gates, surprising Harold with their precisely timed appearance unexpectedly. Erica expressed honor being picked up by Harold himself, though he doubted her sincerity internally. Harold noticed Yuno, Erica's attendant, introduced to assist her during her stay, adding a presence. Observing Yuno with Erica, Harold realized another complication from the Sumeragi family had arrived unexpectedly today. He decided to avoid interference, allowing Erica and Yuno to manage themselves independently without his intervention. Harold warned them both not to interfere, ensuring they clearly understood his limits and expectations clearly. Hayden publicly introduced Erica and Yuno, drawing attention and excitement from everyone observing the scene quickly. Harold reacted angrily to Hayden's announcement, worried about the public spectacle and potential embarrassment occurring suddenly. Harold was shocked when informed he must escort Erica on a town tour immediately tomorrow. Erica politely asked Harold to care for her, forcing him to become involved from beginning. At the Sumeragi estate, a letter from Harold reached the household, raising quiet curiosity. Kiryu carefully handed the letter to an elder, prompting him to examine its contents with caution. The elder, frowning, voiced suspicion about Harold's intentions, noting the unusual openness of the message. He acknowledged that the Stokes family had nothing to gain, yet the letter carried potential danger. Harold's letter suggested the Stokes family might face decline, leaving everyone tense and watchful. The elder considered that Harold might only be a messenger, suspecting another could be controlling him. He examined the letter, reasoning that the author might intend to harm the Stokes family rather than help Sumeragi. It was possible the sender was someone close to Harold, freely manipulating him for their own ends. From a critical point of view, Harold appeared hypnotized, a test of Sumeragi's reaction and loyalty. The elder worried that the risk might outweigh any benefit, considering how to prevent the potential scheme. The elder recognized that the contents of Harold's letter might be true, signaling real danger. He instructed Kiryu to prepare necessary supplies for those willing to act despite the risks. Kiryu acknowledged the order, ensuring the preparations were understood and ready for immediate use. Meanwhile, at the Stokes estate, a lavish meal was served, showcasing the family's wealth and pride. Erika and Yuno joined others at the table, unaware of the looming threat hinted by Harold's letter. Harold appeared uneasy during the meal, but tried to hide his concern from Erika. Yuno and others noticed Harold's reaction, while some guests watched the subtle tension at the table. His parents laughed awkwardly, trying to ease the situation, though the atmosphere remained slightly strained. Harold felt frustrated seeing his family act in public, aware of how exposed he was. He realized everyone seemed absorbed in their own world, intensifying his desire to leave as soon as possible. Yuno reflected on Harold's past behavior, noting his rebellious nature and unpredictability. She considered that Harold might be linked to a traitor or manipulated, adding uncertainty. Yuno decided that clarifying Harold's intentions was crucial, as the threat to Sumeragi remained unresolved. Erika affirmed her purpose in assisting the investigation, ready to act on Yuno's instructions. Yuno expressed concern for Erika's safety, while Erika reassured her, confident in her investigative skills. Erika observed the empty room, considering the potential danger surrounding Harold. Yuno suspected Harold might be acting under a traitor's influence, prompting further caution. She recalled that Erika had attempted to test Harold previously, yielding no conclusive results. Yuno considered the possibility that Harold could be manipulated like a puppet. Unaware of it, the chance of Harold being hypnotized or controlled without his consent weighed heavily on her mind. Erika questioned the possibility of Harold being controlled, weighing the reality of Tasuku-sama's claim. She prepared herself for action, knowing the effort required would be considerable and delicate. Kazuki explained how nobles treated commoners like objects, warning that any defiance would lead to ridicule. Erika and Yuno discussed the heavy taxes that forced citizens into a frugal life, struggling to survive. Harold noted that revolts were futile, as the Stokes territory prioritized military funding over citizen welfare. Clara listened carefully while a townsperson explained the situation, understanding the limited scope of the story. Hayden reported concerns about Harold's son, signaling that family issues added another layer of tension in the kingdom. Harold whispered something urgent to Clara, leaving her shocked and speechless. Clara considered the rumors about the Stokes family's son, realizing it could be true. They hurried through the streets, doors slamming behind them as tension rose. Shadows moved along the alley, hinting at someone secretly following them. Kazuki and Yuno arrived at the shop Norman mentioned, curious if this was the place. Harold arrived at the Stokes territory, greeted by a local who offered a suspicious welcome. Clara received a small envelope of money, feeling uneasy yet grateful for the gesture. Kazuki noted Clara's cautious behavior, realizing she ignored rumors to confirm the truth herself. Harold reflected on reports from soldiers and the potential danger to Clara and Colette, considering precautions. Clara walked alone, thinking quietly about the town's growth and the subtle threats surrounding her. Harold reviewed reports, confirming that all 6 estates were growing as expected, planning to expand operations. His advisors warned that expanding without enough manpower could risk mismanagement by self-interested farmers. Harold considered hiring outside workers, questioning if his current staff could manage the farms alongside their duties. A subordinate requested to finish his soil report first, clarifying which fields needed attention. The report confirmed no negative effects from life potions, detailing rotation schedules for different crops. Harold instructed his team to continue monitoring crop samples, noting that taste had not shown differences yet. Clara sat quietly, reflecting on the results of the harvest and the subtle progress of the estates. Yuno appeared unexpectedly, surprising Clara, who immediately noticed her presence. Clara recounted citizens' hatred toward the Stokes family, Realizing the resentment was more widespread than expected, Yuno responded lightly, noting curiosity and intrigue in the stories, assessing which matters were worth further attention. Yuno revealed shocking news that Harold had used magic to burn a servant and her family. Clara struggled to believe it, questioning whether the story about Clara and Colette was true. Yuno confirmed multiple servants gave the same testimony, suggesting the rumor was not unfounded. Despite this, Harold had found hope to save Sumeragi's people, showing a different side. Clara reflected that perhaps Harold had been shaped differently from his parents, hinting at possible change. Clara warned Erica to avoid being alone with Harold, fearing something might happen. Erica reassured Yuno, showing support and calming her fears despite the tense situation. Erica comforted Yuno again, emphasizing that everything would be fine and she was there. Harold, from a distance, confidently declared that it would be fine, echoing reassurance to everyone. Sumeragi's daughter stood by the window, watching the wind sway the curtains. Servants whispered about her fragile condition since meeting Harold, their concern growing each passing day. Meanwhile, Harold trained in the forest, practicing with his sword. The area was quiet, perfect for honing his skills without interruption. He swung his blade freely, testing strength and precision. The air around him seemed to hum with energy as he focused entirely on his training. The sword glowed, sparks flying as he pushed his limits. Harold's concentration intensified, channeling his power through each strike. Finally, he unleashed a powerful technique, swift lightning, sending a surge of energy crashing down, demonstrating mastery over his blade and magic alike. Harold unleashed swift lightning again, causing massive explosions throughout the forest. Trees shattered, and the ground trembled under the force of his magic-infused sword. He paused, analyzing his technique. Though powerful, Harold felt the attack still lacked the strength needed to match the original game's Harold. Determined, he pushed himself further, imagining greater precision and speed. He knew his abilities must exceed the standard to survive in this world. Unseen, a young woman observed from behind a tree, impressed yet concerned. She noted Harold's combination of swordsmanship and magic, sensing a hidden secret. She pondered the risk he posed, realizing the only way to understand his potential was to confront him directly, despite the danger. The girl considered retreat, weighing the danger of confronting Harold directly. She knew his power might overwhelm her, and her hidden weapons offered little assurance. Suddenly, a sword flew toward her. She froze, startled, realizing Harold had detected her presence, despite her attempts to hide. She debated running but knew Harold had likely already anticipated her actions. His skill at 10 years old made evasion nearly impossible. Facing the thrown sword, she admitted to herself she could not lie her way out of the situation. The reality of his precision was undeniable. Harold, flustered, accidentally let the sword slip from his hands, creating a tense moment. Both realized the encounter could go in any direction. Harold surveyed the forest, surprised that no enemies emerged. He wondered if his attacks had incapacitated hidden observers, or if they remained silent, too cautious to move. Yuno emerged, bowing slightly and apologizing for spying on Harold. She admitted her curiosity had drawn her here, despite knowing the danger. Harold noted that she seemed unharmed, and quietly observed her stance. He found no real threat from watching a young girl but remained cautious. He warned Yuno to stay visible while observing, explaining the risk of being hidden near his training. She acknowledged the advice, understanding its seriousness. Yuno reflected on his words, realizing Harold's warning implied there would be no tolerance for further intrusion. She accepted the limit, recognizing his immense skill and authority. Yuno reflected on Harold's unmatched ability, noting how easily he had sensed her presence, and resolved the situation without harm. She worried about protecting Erica from someone so powerful. Harold stood firm, exuding both power and ingenuity. His presence alone reminded observers that he was no ordinary child. Yuno realized that facing him directly was impossible. For a mere puppet, his skills left her feeling defeated before any confrontation. Harold noticed Erica's discomfort in the new environment. He casually questioned Yuno, learning that the sheltered girl was struggling with homesickness. Yuno reminded him of Erica's status and encouraged him to show some kindness, but Harold retorted with cold humor, emphasizing their temporary relationship and his refusal to be restrained. Harold realized he had spoken too freely, worrying that Yuno might misinterpret his intentions. He carefully considered his next words. He reflected on the engagement, deciding there was no reason to reveal his thoughts about canceling it yet. He asserted that no explanation was necessary. Harold observed Erica, noting that her prolonged unwell state was unusual. He wondered if her constitution was weaker than he had expected. From above, Erica gazed out of her window. Silent and contemplative, she seemed troubled. leaving Harold to question whether this situation might signal an impending flag in their fate. Harold realized he had left his sword in the forest and rushed outside, worried about retrieving it before nightfall. He spotted Erica at a distance and thought it was unsafe to leave a lethal weapon unattended. He decided to hurry toward the forest. Erica appeared fragile, and Harold observed her carefully, questioning if she was strong enough to move around safely. He considered guiding her back to her room to prevent her from collapsing. Approaching cautiously, Harold scolded Erica for wandering despite her poor health, insisting she return safely to her home. Harold called out to Erica, urging her to respond, frustrated by her silence in the garden. He realized she might not speak openly when someone she disliked was present, and leaving might be the only way to let her settle. Harold pretended indifference, claiming he didn't care if her health worsened, while Erica quietly grabbed his sleeve. She asked something important, and Harold waited, curious about her question, aware the moment mattered. Erica confronted Harold, asking if the rumor of him using magic to burn a servant was true. Harold considered Erica's question. Realizing the truth was obvious, and prepared to answer honestly, he immediately denied the rumor. But Erica's expression showed she wasn't fully convinced. Harold revealed he had indeed killed the servant and her daughter, explaining it wouldn't matter if they weren't remembered in a heroic tale. Erica asked why he would act that way, and Harold casually explained there was no special reason, treating them like livestock. He insisted it was an act of mercy, claiming the daughter was spared loneliness, while Erica pleaded for him to stop. Erica swung her arm angrily at Harold, expressing her outrage at his cruel words. She yelled that he was the worst human she had ever met, tears streaming down her face. Harold responded coldly, claiming he had nothing more to say, while Erica's anger and pain remained. He walked away silently, his expression conflicted as he touched his face, reflecting on her words. A servant boy called out to Harold from the hallway, breaking the tension and drawing him toward the next task. Zen arrived at Harold's room, casually asking if he had been training, unaware of Harold's mood. Harold, upset, demanded to be left alone for the entire day, his voice filled with irritation. He forcefully pushed Zen out of the room, refusing to hear any objections, closing the door firmly. Zen knelt on the floor outside, calling Harold's name, concerned and surprised by the sudden dismissal. Harold sighed while sitting alone against the closed door, reflecting quietly, conflicted about his feelings and actions. Harold reflected on his actions, realizing that even his attempts to drive Erica away still caused her pain. He told himself not to feel shaken, trying to maintain composure, despite the emotional weight of her reactions. Looking out the window, Harold worried that if he didn't take action, he wouldn't be able to move forward, feeling trapped by the consequences of his own behavior. Harold Stokes woke suddenly, sunlight pouring across the floor, the clock revealing he had completely overslept this morning, missing several hours. Sitting upright in bed, he realized the previous day's harsh slap had truly affected him, leaving the room unusually quiet. Reflecting on yesterday's events, Harold felt embarrassed but surprisingly not defeated, considering how fans of the game would judge his actions. A sudden rumble reminded him to leave quickly, prompting Harold to get dressed and head toward the dining room for breakfast. Entering the dining room, he noticed a servant waiting patiently, observing Harold's fatigue, remarking silently about the day's demanding schedule ahead. Discussing the LP farming method with his advisor, Harold emphasized the importance of recruiting external personnel to expand the farming operations successfully. The older advisor questioned Harold's approach, asking whether he had thought carefully about increasing workforce efficiency and implementing the expansion strategies properly. Harold suggested demonstrating the LP farming method to local merchants, offering contracts allowing them to utilize the rights for profitable returns. He explained the system clearly: merchants pay fees for access, while profits would be divided fairly between the farmers and inventor. Harold emphasized the necessity for capable inspectors overseeing farmers, requesting the advisor's opinion on which companies could manage the process reliably. Contacting independent merchants seemed difficult, the advisor noted, while Harold considered the limited connections could prevent reaching the trustworthy merchants efficiently. Reflecting, Harold thought of his parents' potential connections, realizing they might provide a pathway to reach reliable merchants successfully in the region. Harold proposed focusing on this strategy, suggesting coordination with Jake to ensure both parties executed the merchant recruitment plan efficiently and effectively. Suddenly, a knock sounded on the door, calling Harold's name urgently, attempting to get his immediate attention as quickly as possible. The door opened, revealing no one. The visitor noticed Harold's absence, leaving the room entirely empty, echoing silence throughout the spacious hall. Walking down the hall, someone noticed Harold missing and wondered whether he had gone to train again despite getting up early. The visitor saw Erica seated quietly, greeted her politely, noting her calm and composed demeanor, despite the apparent tension in the room. Erika explained Yuno was out handling personal business, while Zen introduced himself formally, inquiring politely about her current visit to the manor. Zen asked whether Erika had business with Harold, and she explained he was absent from his room, so she had waited patiently. Observing Harold's workload, Zen noticed he had been busy constantly recently, worrying he might overexert himself, concerned about Harold's overall well-being. Erika confronted Zen, asking whether he knew about Harold allegedly using magic to kill one of the servants in the mansion previously. Zen admitted he had heard some rumors but could not confirm their truth, hesitating before accepting them as fact entirely. Erika insisted the servant's death was true, claiming Harold had confirmed the rumors personally, which caused Zen to react nervously, unsettled, struggling with her emotions. Erika questioned how she could continue following Harold, despite knowing about his darker actions and moral compromises. She confessed she could not fully accept Harold, leaving Zen surprised and uncertain how to respond to her sudden declaration. Wrestling with her emotions, Erika considered how she might forgive Harold after he had killed a servant, struggling with her conscience deeply. Reflecting on her position as Harold's fiancée, she acknowledged her responsibility to help the Sumeraji family, feeling conflicted about her duties. With tears streaming down her face, Erika admitted she could not forgive Harold, revealing the emotional weight she carried to Zen clearly. Apologizing for her display of emotions, she quietly excused herself, leaving the room and attempting to compose herself after the overwhelming encounter. Watching Erika leave, Zen reflected on her emotions, wondering whether it was truly acceptable. Recognizing her pain mirrored the complexity of Harold's situation. Standing apart, Harold and Erika each carried heavy burdens, while Harold saved a woman and child, yet bore dishonor for being a murderer. They debated internally whether continuing on separate paths was appropriate, feeling conflicted while recognizing how similar they were, despite traveling different ways. Zen observed the situation closely, worried that leaving things unresolved might cause ongoing tension, sensing a complex emotional strain between the two. The narration reflected on their shared qualities, strength and kindness, suggested that mutual support could help them walk together successfully through challenges. Zen called out to Erika, asking whether she would accompany him, and she responded positively, indicating she was willing to take a hopeful step. Apologizing to Harold, Zen admitted he feared Harold might one day shatter completely, regretting that he had not acted sooner to prevent harm. Considering the consequences, Zen realized ignoring problems or turning a blind eye could result in Harold being lost in a disastrous situation. Eventually resolving to act, Zen determined he could never forgive himself for failing to save Harold previously, committing to intervene actively whenever possible. He declared that even if considered inept or forsaken, he would assist Harold in any possible manner, dedicating himself fully to the cause. Confronting Erika, Zen insisted she listen carefully, emphasizing Harold's well-being and decisions mattered greatly, demanding her attention to ensure proper understanding and support. Erika silently agreed to follow Zen, asking him where they would proceed next, ready to move forward despite uncertainty about the destination. Guiding her gently, Zen led Erika forward, taking her to a place she did not yet comprehend or understand the full significance of. Erika hesitated briefly, questioning the sudden direction, but Zen insisted they continue immediately, leaving no opportunity to linger or reconsider the path. Revealing the location, Zen brought her to Harold's room, ensuring Erika understood precisely where they were headed and the importance of the destination. Erika's eyes widened, shocked at the revelation, realizing the full significance of arriving at Harold's room and the implications for him. Carrying a tray carefully through the wide hallway, Harold smiled brightly while Zen observed cautiously, and a servant silently followed behind. Without warning, Zen slammed the door closed, causing Harold to flinch in surprise. The tension in the room immediately escalated sharply. Sweating nervously, Harold tried to explain his actions, but Zen's glaring expression made it clear he remained unimpressed and serious. Apologizing quietly for peeking, Harold admitted his mistake as Zen scolded him severely, emphasizing boundaries and respecting privacy within the house. In the corner, another guest paused hesitantly, realizing escape was impossible, while Harold attempted to quickly analyze Zen's unpredictable behavior cautiously. Harold approached Zen urgently, explaining troubling rumors spreading throughout town regarding Clara, fearing inaction could negatively impact his own reputation and status. Remaining calm, Zen listened closely, silently considering Harold's concerns while analyzing the potential consequences if Harold failed to act responsibly or promptly. With an indifferent expression, Zen dismissed Harold's anxious concerns, leaving him startled, unsettled, and realizing his worries might have been overestimated completely. Considering revealing the truth about Clara and Colette's escape, Harold hesitated while Zen evaluated whether disclosing this information was truly necessary carefully. Clara remained completely silent, determined and resolute, refusing to reveal any confidential secrets, even if it meant risking her personal safety entirely. Harold inquired about informing Erica, but Zen confidently dismissed the notion, emphasizing that sharing the information would serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Zen highlighted that the rumors deeply affected Clara, and Harold slowly realized how serious and potentially harmful the situation had actually become. Questioning Zen's firm refusal, Harold pondered the reasoning, while Clara internally acknowledged this action prevented a dangerous death flag from occurring unexpectedly. Acknowledging Zen's kindness, Harold worried that blindly following these instructions might inadvertently create serious problems, or lead to significant personal downfall unexpectedly. Observing Clara crying, Zen began planning how to warn Harold not to disclose any sensitive information and maintain complete confidentiality properly. Explaining the risk, Zen told Harold that informing Erica about Clara's survival would generate suspicion, potentially creating a dangerous death flag immediately. Noting Clara's overly kind and gentle nature, Zen warned that her sympathetic tendencies could unintentionally cause harm if she remained in close proximity. Harold understood Zen's intentions were to protect both Clara and himself, preventing unnecessary complications that could arise from her well-meaning but harmful actions. Clarifying matters, Zen assured Harold that he had no intention of marrying Erica, treating the engagement purely as a transactional and practical arrangement. Reflecting on historical economic crises, Harold noted how the Stokes family carefully planned and executed strategic decisions, supporting the continent through difficult times effectively. Asking whether breaking the engagement could harm the Sumeragi family, Harold listened, as Zen explained that necessary measures had already been thoughtfully implemented. Zen mentioned sending a carefully worded letter through Erica to Tasuku, detailing precautions and future plans to protect both families and citizens efficiently. Within the letter, Zen provided methods to counter the miasma, allowing the Sumeragi forest industry to recover safely and continue operating successfully afterward. Noticing the letter lacked detailed instructions, Harold questioned Zen, who explained the vagueness was deliberate to avoid misunderstandings while protecting critical information effectively. Confirming contingency plans, Zen ensured that the Sumeragi family could survive, even if the engagement was broken, leaving Harold astonished by the thoughtful foresight. Harold, surprised by Zen's meticulous planning, asked about the thoroughness, curious how the antibody and letter were prepared to cover potential emergencies carefully. Zen urged Harold to consider his own uncertain future, encouraging him to think ahead, prepare for potential disasters, and act responsibly without delay. Explaining the possible economic slump, Zen informed Harold that the Stokes family might face financial difficulties, requiring careful planning to avoid disastrous outcomes later. Emphasizing careful management of taxation and spending, Zen suggested that hardships could be delayed effectively if they handled current responsibilities with maximum prudence and diligence. Assuring Harold, Zen mentioned Tasuku Sumeragi would act to prevent significant damage, maintaining stability, despite upcoming challenges and unforeseen difficulties affecting the family strategically. Clara hesitated uncertainly, struggling with how to respond, while Harold looked confused and waited patiently for her reaction, unsure of what action to take. Explaining Tasuku's position, Zen revealed he would act as a liaison, with the royal family protecting citizens if the Stokes family suffered collapse. Zen cautioned Harold that if any information leaked, it could result in severe consequences, leaving Harold feeling nervous and uncertain about handling this situation. Promising complete discretion, Harold reassured Clara that he would keep the secret, maintaining confidentiality and preventing any unintended dissemination of sensitive information entirely. Amused, Zen instructed Harold to leave promptly, emphasizing that no further discussion was necessary, and all relevant matters had already been sufficiently covered efficiently. Inquiring about Harold's plans, Zen asked why sword training suddenly became a priority, curious about the reasoning behind this unexpected change in schedule. Harold admitted his interest in swordsmanship, expressing his desire to witness Zen demonstrating his skills, hoping to improve understanding of sword techniques firsthand. Preparing a swinging practice setup, Zen focused on improving Swift Lightning's accuracy, while Harold observed closely, learning and analyzing movement patterns to enhance his skill. Taking two swords, Harold demonstrated a special privilege, despite having no prior experience, surprising Zen with his enthusiasm and willingness to participate actively in training. Zen instructed Harold to continue moving constantly, emphasizing the importance of survival over precise technique, demonstrating the necessity of staying alert and avoiding danger consistently. Panicked, Harold pleaded for Zen to ease his training intensity, fearing for his safety while being unexpectedly used as a target during practice exercises. Clara walked quietly down the hallway, her expression solemn, moving carefully through the space, reflecting on recent events and the decisions she had made thoughtfully. Contemplating whether to reveal the truth about Clara and Colette, she hesitated, unsure if making this information public would be wise or potentially harmful. Erica returned unexpectedly, relieved to see Yuno, her expression combining joy and urgency as she rushed forward to ensure everything was safe and accounted for. Determined, Clara insisted she needed immediate confirmation, her resolve clear as she approached Yuno with urgency, eager to clarify critical information without delay. Harold weighed the consequences of revealing Clara and Colette's survival, knowing parental discovery could cause serious suspicion, while prioritizing the Sumeragi family's independence and safety. Observing from afar, he confirmed the children's training remained uninterrupted, the village peaceful, and the dangers from past threats entirely unnoticed by them. Clara and Colette carefully examined records regarding an unusual antibiotic source. Understanding its origin explained medical irregularities that had occurred previously within their village. Collaborating with other researchers proved insufficient. They could not produce clinical samples in time. Realizing that successfully creating the solution demanded much additional preparation. Predicting future crises, Harold foresaw the Sumeragi family's challenges, carefully planning engagement decisions to ensure their ongoing survival and maintain stability throughout the village region. Working tirelessly, Harold dedicated countless hours developing medicine for the Sumeragi family, completely without personal benefit, committing fully to the challenging and exhausting project ahead. Sensing irregularities in the surroundings, Colette noticed Harold's presence seemed nearly omniscient, requiring her to observe cautiously and remain constantly aware of potential hidden threats. Clara questioned whether Harold's behavior toward Erica might have been intentional, analyzing his motives and considering every possible strategy behind his complex decision-making. Contemplating Harold's unpredictability, Colette realized his intimidating nature made him difficult to understand, and the more she considered, the more perplexing he appeared to become. Weeks after confrontation, Harold calmly reviewed detailed notes, maintaining composure, thoughtful consideration, and preparedness, ensuring he would remain ready for any potential complications or challenges. Over time, Harold observed the passage of days, while Clara and Colette remained away, focusing diligently on business while confirming their ongoing safety. Norman approached Harold and initiated discussion regarding urgent matters, requiring immediate attention, as Harold welcomed him with composed readiness, prepared to handle any situation. Summoned by their master, Harold received critical instructions from Norman, fully aware that the meeting could significantly influence decisions and require careful attention throughout discussions. The master outlined Lady Erica's declining health, emphasizing the urgency of her return to Sumeragi territory, prompting Harold to carefully consider the implications of this directive. Accepting the responsibility, Harold agreed to escort Lady Erica safely, ensuring her protection during transit while maintaining composure, focus, and readiness throughout the journey ahead. Harold experienced shock when unexpectedly instructed to remain at the Sumeragi residence, tasked with improving familial relationships, leaving him uneasy and uncertain about his next actions. Questioning the requirement to demonstrate sincerity with Lady Erica, Harold realized that the situation involved delicate interpersonal nuances and required careful navigation to avoid misunderstandings or offense. Although wishing to avoid Erica entirely, Harold recognized the importance of completing the task and approaching it carefully to prevent potential risks or complications. Considering his proposal regarding the LP farming method, Harold recognized it as an opportunity to advance his strategy while simultaneously fulfilling obligations toward others. Evaluating the Sumeragi family's circumstances, Harold realized progress seemed uncertain, but he understood that his actions could significantly influence the family's future and stability over time. Formulating a plan to gain Tasuku as an ally, Harold relied on careful strategy, confident his best approach had already been deployed successfully. Maintaining self-assurance, Harold reflected on the naivety of others, while ensuring his careful planning preserved control, allowing him to navigate complex circumstances strategically and effectively. Observing the countryside, Harold prepared mentally for upcoming interactions, anticipating challenges and planning carefully to navigate the complexities surrounding the Sumeragi family and their village relations. Arriving in Blosha village, Harold approached a local resident to gather information, demonstrating focus, determination, and intent to locate the individuals he sought successfully. A villager informed Harold about Clara Ameler's whereabouts, providing the critical information he needed to continue his mission, while ensuring her safety during subsequent actions. Harold Stokes carried the laundry basket through the quiet fields surrounding his home. The sun shone, and a gentle breeze rustled the grass. He hung the clothes carefully on the line, making sure each piece was secure. The routine felt peaceful and grounding for Harold. Harold paused, taking in the scenery. The mountains stretched far into the horizon, and the breeze cooled his face, reminding him of freedom. 5 months had passed since the events that changed his life. He reflected quietly on how surreal everything still felt. Harold recalled the day he had nearly been executed by the feudal lord. Surviving felt like a second chance, and he resolved to live fully. Harold remembered the boy who had helped him survive. He realized the boy was only a year younger than his daughter. Clara stood quietly, reflecting on the boy's life. She wondered what had happened to him since the last encounter. Harold knew he could no longer intervene with the Stokes family. Clara worried about their welfare without revealing herself. Clara greeted Leona, who appeared with a cheerful demeanor. The morning sunlight highlighted the calmness of the day. Leona explained that Liner had gone to the ranch with Colette to fetch milk. Clara nodded, relieved everything was fine. Clara watched Liner carry the milk back from the ranch. She reassured herself that the boy's training would benefit him. Liner and Clara exchanged words about maintaining discipline and care. Clara felt the boy's progress was steady and promising. Alone, Clara thought of preparing the cookies she had baked yesterday, anticipating the return of Liner and Colette. Suddenly, a cloaked stranger appeared and called out, identifying Clara Ameller. She was surprised and wary of the unexpected visitor. The stranger questioned Clara directly about Harold Stokes. Clara's heart raced as she considered how much to reveal, cautious of consequences. The cloaked stranger pressed Clara about the rumors of a boy's murder in Stokes territory. Clara was stunned. She questioned who the stranger could be. Doubts swirled about whether he was connected to the Stokes family. Clara insisted she knew nothing. The stranger bowed slightly and promised to return, leaving Clara uneasy and thoughtful. Harold's safety weighed on her mind. She feared that if the feudal lord became suspicious, danger could reach him. Clara silently prayed for Harold's protection, hoping divine intervention would keep him safe from enemies and misfortune. Clara silently prayed, asking for Harold's protection. She hoped divine guidance would keep him safe from danger. Harold arrived at the welcoming estate. Erica and Yuno greeted him warmly, easing the tension of travel. The adults offered Harold a rest and promised to escort him to his room later. He nodded quietly. Harold confronted Tasuku directly, insisting he had something important to say. Tasuku smiled, unbothered by Harold's tone. Despite his irritation, Harold scheduled a private meeting. He prepared himself for the conversation, aware it might anger Tasuku. Harold noticed Tasuku remained calm, just as he had in the original story. The boy's composure surprised him. Yuno approached Tasuku, seeking guidance. He greeted her politely, curious about her intentions and presence. Yuno handed Tasuku a report detailing the situation in Stokes territory and Harold's current state. Tasuku thanked Yuno and promised to review the report later, acknowledging her hard work and diligence. Yuno reflected on her progress, lamenting that she had found no new leads since the day of Harold's near execution. Yuno observed Harold's servants, noting how they skillfully avoided revealing information about him. She analyzed their controlled behavior carefully. According to her private inquiries, the inspector and investigators could not determine Harold's activities, especially in the agricultural sector. Small groups of farmers remained tightly connected, making it difficult for Yuno to uncover information or infiltrate the community. Yuno acknowledged the challenge, realizing further inquiries would be limited for the moment. She prepared to act when opportunities arose. Unexpectedly, Yuno encountered a familiar figure. She smiled, curious if this person had found the information she sought. The stranger confirmed that Clara Ameller was in Blush Village. Yuno listened carefully, absorbing every detail. Yuno asked about Clara's knowledge of Harold. The stranger explained she knew him but would not discuss the incident. Yuno smiled and decided she had no choice but to visit Clara herself. She prepared to travel and meet her directly. Calmly holding his tea, Harold Stokes observed the ceremonial setup, but internally, he was actively planning intricate strategies and outcomes. Reflecting on his extensive knowledge from the game, Harold carefully devised calculated methods to influence the Stokes family's financial and political power. Predicting the Sumeragi family's financial desperation, Harold anticipated they would accept his plan, analyzing their weaknesses and potential vulnerabilities with precision. Meanwhile, the narrative suggested that future heroes, including Liner and his allies, would eventually face and challenge this looming threat in years. To secure his plan's success, Harold secretly sent a letter to Tasuku, ensuring he could act discreetly while controlling events. Studying the LP farming method, Harold realized perfect replication wasn't possible, prompting him to perform additional trials before presenting the method to Tasuku. Concerned that irregularities in quality and safety might undermine Tasuku's trust, Harold exercised extreme caution in presenting the LP farming method proposal. Without Tasuku's support, Harold understood that he would eventually have to comply with the game's original 8-year timeline, limiting available options. Determined to succeed, Harold decided to approach Tasuku directly, taking a bold risk to guarantee approval for his carefully calculated plan. Upon Tasuku's arrival, Harold confidently prepared his strategy, ensuring that this high-stakes gamble would succeed and achieve the desired outcomes efficiently. Expressing gratitude, Tasuku acknowledged Harold's advice about the antibiotics. Though Harold insisted it was a necessary measure, not a favor or courtesy, Tasuku observed the positive shift Harold's intervention created, while Harold remained modest, pragmatically considering the subtle but important outcome of his actions. Mocking Tasuku's bowing, Harold criticized the unnecessary subservience, demonstrating his blunt personality and candidly highlighting the absurdity of the gesture to him. Tasuku found Harold's unexpected compliment intriguing, recognizing its value, and appreciating the rare acknowledgement of his promising skills and potential contributions. Suggesting a strategic alliance, Harold invited Tasuku to follow him, offering a partnership that could strengthen both their long-term plans and success. Harold presented Tasuku with a document, explaining his intentions clearly and urging careful review, while ensuring that no flattery influenced Tasuku's judgment. Tasuku examined the trial results for crops treated with the life potion, noting Harold's meticulous experimentation and precise attention to every calculated detail. Astonished, Tasuku reviewed the harvest comparison graph, discovering yields far exceeded traditional methods, confirming that Harold's meticulous planning and research had been effective. With subtle confidence, Harold smiled, knowing the remarkable results would convince Tasuku of the method's effectiveness and the credibility of his strategic proposal. Though initially skeptical, Tasuku admitted the results were extraordinary, acknowledging Harold's challenge and agreeing to move forward with the plan strategically. Recognizing Harold's guidance, Tasuku appreciated the antibiotic method that saved the Sumeragi territory, despite the unusual nature and unexpected consequences of his actions. Emphasizing the benefits of merely presenting the data, Harold noted its significant value, and Tasuku carefully weighed the evidence before drawing conclusions. Offering the manuscript voluntarily, Harold demonstrated trust in Tasuku, allowing him full choice while reinforcing the importance of independence in decision-making. Observing Harold's independent actions, Tasuku realized he was not being manipulated, understanding that Harold's careful thought guided every decision he undertook strategically. Concluding that Harold's decisions arose from careful analysis rather than coercion, Tasuku acknowledged his autonomy, recognizing the depth of Harold's independent strategic thinking. Considering the manuscript, Harold knew allowing Tasuku access could profit the Sumeragi family, yet he remained calm, thoughtful, and composed throughout the decision. Tasuku recognized Harold's intention in letting him initiate discussion, understanding there was a deeper purpose beyond merely presenting the manuscript for review. Wondering about Harold's true motives, Tasuku considered that revealing flaws in the LP farming method might be part of a larger strategic assessment. Determined to prevent potential harm, Tasuku clenched his fist, focusing on analyzing Harold's motives, while ensuring the Sumeragi family remained unharmed. Fully resolving to understand the situation, Tasuku committed to careful observation, interpreting Harold's request, and discerning his strategy before acting decisively or prematurely. Questioning Harold regarding the data, Tasuku probed his intentions, testing Harold's strategic thinking and ability to handle scrutiny and evaluation effectively. Harold clarified that successful trial results would allow him to initiate production in his territory and gradually expand the LP farming method nationwide. Concerned about monopolization, Tasuku suspected Harold might centralize control over the method, potentially creating dangerous power imbalances and concentrating wealth unethically across regions. Explaining carefully, Harold reassured Tasuku that hoarding could create conflicts, emphasizing careful management to prevent adversaries and maintain peaceful strategic implementation nationwide. Approving Harold's approach, Tasuku recognized the importance of caution, while Harold acknowledged this understanding, establishing mutual trust and alignment in their shared objectives. Approaching Tasuku, Harold explained the purpose of his proposal, signaling the initiation of an important plan requiring cooperation and careful consideration for success. Revealing his intention, Harold offered Tasuku partnership as joint developer of the LP farming method, empowering him and sharing responsibility for the strategy's implementation. Harold Stokes confidently declared himself the co-developer of the MCPV, surprising everyone in the room. Kazuki noted that from now on the Sumeragi name would be used in the project, leaving others puzzled, especially the Stokes family. Observing Harold's unusual behavior, family members wondered if he had hidden powers and questioned why his attitude had changed so drastically. It became clear that the Stokes parents would have boasted about Harold's abilities during the engagement meeting if they fully recognized his excellence. Reflecting on the family letter, Harold realized the Stokes family's decline was being highlighted, confirming the weight of his responsibilities. Harold Stokes asked if revealing the MCPV to the parents was a bad idea, assessing the risks carefully. He explained that his parents' controlling nature could monopolize the project if they learned about it, emphasizing his shortage of peons for inspections. Kazuki noted Harold was the easiest to handle among potential candidates, ready to step aside if others refused the offer. Harold realized the intervention wouldn't be necessary, confident in his own ability to manage the situation. He accepted the proposal, acknowledging that someone like him couldn't be stopped, securing the project's future. Tasuku Sumeragi struggled to imagine taking a strong stance without any foundation, questioning Harold's confidence. He realized that persuasion was necessary to prevent the opposing side from retreating. Reflecting on Harold's strategic approach, Harold reviewed the letter and revealed crucial defenses, surprising Tasuku, who could not believe the depth of preparation. Tasuku read the letter carefully, understanding the sacrifices made by families to secure economic support for their daughters. He considered how his own family spent freely and imposed heavy taxes, realizing the contrast with Harold's careful planning. Tasuku Sumeragi worried that citizens would revolt, recognizing the urgency of Harold's plan to protect Erica. Harold outlined steps: synthesize antibiotics, establish a defensive zone in the most contaminated area, and use industrial techniques to restore the economy. Tasuku realized these three conditions would allow the Sumeragi family to rebuild dominance without relying on the Stokes family. He understood that the Stokes' influence was now linked to the cancellation of Harold's engagement with Erika Sumeragi. Tasuku reviewed the industrial technique proposal, noting its connection to the MCPV project described in Harold's letter. Harold asked Tasuku if he had anticipated the situation from the start, testing his insight and strategy. Tasuku admitted he hadn't, though the proposal was irresistible, prompting Harold to question his reasoning. Harold reflected that no one else could understand the complexities as he did, emphasizing his unique perspective. He warned that without trust, the discussion would end, pressing Tasuku to commit to the plan. Despite the tension, Tasuku recognized Harold's careful handling, allowing him to decide and progress further in the project. Harold considered that accepting the proposal could save citizens, the family, and Erika's future, weighing the consequences carefully. Tasuku imagined that refusing would force him to accept the engagement with Erika, keeping the Sumeragi family reliant on Stokes. Harold realized that if Tasuku refused, all the efforts to spread the MCPV would be wasted, making him the true loser. Despite the complexity, Harold framed the choice as a fair negotiation, giving the Sumeragi family full agency without disadvantage. Tasuku finally decided to accept Harold's proposal, trusting his plan and ensuring the project and Erika's safety. Harold congratulated Tasuku for making a decision quickly, signaling progress in their negotiation. He instructed Tasuku to prepare the Sumeragi fields and assign authoritative personnel, planning to share the MCPV expertise. First, Tasuku understood that after solidifying the foundations, they would collaborate with a company to expand controlled fields and commercialize the technique. He offered to prepare anything Harold needed, ensuring full support and transparency in their cooperation. Harold requested to be connected with someone influential, emphasizing the importance of strategic relationships. During his stay, Harold aimed to accumulate as much combat experience as possible to strengthen his position. Harold Stokes relaxed in the hot spring, feeling a rare moment of peace. Steam rose around him as he reflected on the calm of the Sumeragi estate. He smiled quietly, satisfied. His training with Tasuku had gone smoothly, and he had even found a capable sparring partner. Everything was aligning perfectly. Cherry petals floated in the air. Harold looked up at the sky, appreciating the beauty of the moment and the serene surroundings of the estate. Yuno entered the room, her presence commanding attention. The family gathered, waiting for her to speak. She revealed she had investigated Harold on Erika-sama's orders for a long period, confirming details that would influence future decisions within the Sumeragi household. Yuno apologized to her father for secretly using spies, explaining she had an important verification to complete. She asked whether he was aware of rumors that Harold had allegedly killed a servant and her child. Her father, surprised, confirmed that the rumors had reached the report, but wondered if they might be false. Yuno explained that she had requested the help of her team to investigate and uncover the truth. Yuno revealed that the rumors were inaccurate, clearing Harold's name and confirming the situation was safe. Yuno explained that the mother and child in question were currently living in a small village called Blush, governed by another noble. She added that they had not changed their names, making it easier to track them through the villagers' accounts. Harold's allies noted the information, acknowledging that locating them had been straightforward, but the incident's details remained sensitive. Yuno described how she personally visited the family, though they refused to discuss the events of that time. She approached the household, knocking on the door to confirm the presence of Amel or San, and gather direct information. The door opened cautiously as a woman asked who had come to visit. Yuno introduced herself as a messenger from the Sumeragi family, apologizing for the unannounced visit. She explained that her inquiry concerned Harold Sama, mentioning that someone in the household might have relevant information. Yuno revealed that Erika, the Sumeragi daughter, and Harold were preparing for their marriage, though some family members opposed it. The resident reacted with surprise and hesitation, realizing the implications of Harold Sama's presence and the Sumeragi family's intentions. Yuno explained that Harold Sama was being harmed by rumors, despite being alive and well. Showing concern for his reputation, she detailed how Harold silently suffered the disgrace of being labeled a murderer, earning contempt from the citizens. Yuno offered a solution. If the household supported her secretly, she could gather allies to help Harold without revealing the truth publicly. Harold stood quietly, unaware of the support forming around him, while Yuno tried to convince the household to act discreetly. The resident, moved and conflicted, realized that Harold's suffering had occurred because of them, feeling the weight of responsibility. Yuno held the resident's hands, acknowledging that she understood the hesitation to share the truth and the delicate situation. She expressed her wish to do whatever she could to help Harold and Erika, even if it might cause personal difficulty. The resident agreed and invited Yuno inside, recognizing that the conversation required privacy and a serious discussion. The resident resolved to support Harold in any way possible, deciding to act for his protection and well-being. The sequence of events started when Erika unintentionally harmed Harold, causing him to deceive the family leader regarding her magical testing. Secretly, Harold granted freedom to Erika and her daughter, providing transportation, a dwelling, and necessary supplies, ensuring their safe departure unhindered. Erika discovered Harold's true intention. He bore a magical mark to ensure their safety, preventing their escape from being revealed. Preparing to depart, Erika faced Harold's inquiry about her destination, revealing his genuine concern and protective instincts over her movements. Reflecting on her behavior, Erika admitted ignorance and inability to understand Harold's reasoning, acknowledging she had even raised her hand mistakenly. Erika determined she could no longer leave Harold's injury unattended and resolved to take full responsibility for her previous mistakes. Sincerely, Harold clarified that he risked peril exclusively to safeguard them, and advised Erika to preserve his secret with utmost care. Realizing consequences, Erika understood that sharing any information could increase Harold's suspicion and distance, potentially harming trust between them further. Harold provided reassurance, explaining that feeling compelled to apologize was natural and a reasonable reaction considering her actions previously. Questioning sincerity, he probed whether her apology genuinely reflected understanding or merely served to ease her own guilty conscience internally. Panic-stricken, Erika was uncertain how to amend her mistakes or issue a proper apology, feeling overwhelmed by the situation's complexity. Gently, Harold placed his hand on Erika's head, suggesting she could offer future support and assistance in meaningful ways. Instead of requesting forgiveness directly, he explained Erika should focus on understanding his actions and gradually growing closer through observation. Harold emphasized that observing his efforts carefully would foster genuine comprehension, encouraging Erika to engage thoughtfully and develop meaningful insight. Despite Harold's brilliance, he warned that he might not require friends, making the task challenging but critically important for Erika's growth. Erika was cautioned that regardless of her dedication, Harold would never fully confront the depths and intentions of her heart. He asked whether she truly possessed the resolve to believe in him and actively follow his guidance and decisions faithfully. Harold reminded her that, after careful observation, she could decide her actions and reflect on raising her hand against him. Quietly, Erika accepted Harold's advice, showing comprehension and agreement, acknowledging his guidance with a simple and sincere confirmation of understanding. Observing her growth, Harold reflected that, despite her initial engagement disappointment, she matured significantly, learning responsibility and seeing situations with clarity. Harold recognized that their daughter's deep emotions would naturally strengthen, growing in intensity due to her unwavering care and affection over time. The group reached their destination, an important training area, as the carriage arrived, signaling the start of a significant martial arts program. Observing the largest martial arts temple within Sumeragi territory, they saw children and adults practicing archery, swordsmanship, magic, and combat skills daily. Harold asked about Erika's presence at the temple, seeking explanation for her role and purpose within this prestigious training environment. He clarified that Erika had arrived at an adversary's request, yet the boy chose to observe silently without intervention or interference. Itsuki prepared thoroughly for training, putting on his kimono and equipping himself, readying for martial arts practice, with focused determination and energy. Greeting Erika with a broad smile, Itsuki conveyed excitement and acknowledgement, expressing happiness at her arrival, and shared moment of presence. Harold embraced Erika warmly, reminiscing on her growth, and the collection of memories they would experience together in the forthcoming time. Itsuki questioned whether Erika could truly challenge him, highlighting the disparity between child and adult capabilities and the potential for skill development. Despite her age, Itsuki insisted Erika could still participate, encouraging her to recognize her capacity for handling responsibilities and facing challenges directly. Introducing himself formally, Itsuki revealed he was Erika's older brother, establishing familial connections and clarifying relationships for Harold's understanding of the family. Reminding Harold of his role as Erika's fiancé, Itsuki emphasized accountability, responsibility, and the importance of upholding his commitment seriously. Overjoyed, Itsuki ran eagerly toward Erika, shouting affectionately, "Little sister," with excitement, illustrating the intense bond and playful family dynamics between them. Watching with slight amusement, Harold and Erika observed Itsuki's overflowing enthusiasm, highlighting the lively, playful relationship and strong sibling bond they shared naturally. Harold Stokes grew irritated as Kazuki, wearing a wide grin, approached him unexpectedly. Downstairs, students gathered to watch a duel between Itsuki and Erika's fiancé, anticipation filling the hall. Harold and Kazuki hurried forward, stepping onto the polished wooden floor, the duel about to begin. Kazuki lunged at Harold with a playful smirk, causing Harold to flail and scowl in frustration. Nearby, Erika's older brother observed, preparing weapons while everyone readied for the upcoming duel. Harold observed Kazuki energetically preparing, determined to do his best for Erika. Kazuki handed Harold a bamboo sword, expecting him to demonstrate his skill, while Harold worried silently. They began practicing, swinging and parrying, with Harold noting the weapon felt surprisingly light. Harold considered why the bamboo sword was so easy to handle compared to his usual iron one. From the stands, the trainees watched intently, and Harold felt a mix of nerves and focus. Itsuki Sumeragi prepared for the duel, chosen by Tasuku as Harold's skilled opponent, fully aware of the world's dangers. He reflected on Harold's strengths, knowing he would eventually master the overwhelming speed and superior swordsmanship in this body. Itsuki remembered his own training, confident that consistent practice had prepared him to control this body effectively. The duel rules were explained, only bamboo swords were allowed, and attacks to the head, face, or use of magic were forbidden. Itsuki readied himself as the victor would be determined when one opponent was incapacitated or forfeited, focusing intently on the fight ahead. Itsuki nodded, agreeing to the duel rules without objection, appreciating the fairness provided. The instructor emphasized safety, hoping to avoid serious injuries while Harold considered the restrictions reasonable. Harold reflected on his strength, recalling his past training against adults, and recognizing he must hold back. He decided to give Itsuki a handicap to make the duel fair, respecting his opponent's youth and status. Harold offered the first move to Itsuki, encouraging him to unleash his best attack while remaining alert. The duel officially began as the instructor called for the fighters to get ready and start. Itsuki moved with surprising speed, swinging his bamboo sword before Harold could react, catching him off guard. Harold's eyes widened, struggling to track Itsuki's lightning-fast movements with focus and determination. The swords clashed, spinning through the air, leaving Harold and spectators stunned at Itsuki's unmatched precision. Itsuki smiled confidently, revealing that he had not yet been serious, hinting at even greater skill to come. Harold was amazed by Itsuki's strength, surprised at how fast and skilled his opponent had become. He couldn't defend against Itsuki's sudden moves, realizing the fight was more challenging than expected. Itsuki matched Harold's stance and adjusted his sword's trajectory, demonstrating precise control and awareness. Instead of striking Harold directly, Itsuki deliberately knocked down his bamboo sword, signaling a desire for a true contest. Harold understood Itsuki had been seeking a rival he could fight at full strength, finally recognizing their shared drive. Itsuki acknowledged Harold's skill, apologizing for previously underestimating him and seeking a serious match. Harold confirmed he had been looking for this kind of opponent all along, appreciating the challenge. Itsuki prepared to make the first strike, holding his weapon confidently and focusing on the duel. With a grin, Harold invited Itsuki to attack, daring him to match his speed and skill in a true contest. Itsuki faced his opponent on the wide training ground, wooden sword in hand, preparing for a serious duel, determined to honor his father's promise. Itsuki advanced with focus, ready to match every strike his opponent delivered. He moved with surprising speed, rolling and striking, closing distance faster than anyone anticipated. His opponent tried to keep pace, but Itsuki's movements surpassed expectations, blending precision with agility. Exposing his opponent's guard, Itsuki pressed forward, maintaining control of the duel as the training ground echoed with clashing wood. Itsuki moved swiftly, blocking and parrying each attack, his focus unwavering as he assessed his opponent. He wondered how long the duel would last, calculating every strike with precision while remaining on guard. Itsuki realized that if his opponent could not match his speed, the attacks would become predictable and easy to read. His opponent struggled to adapt, each defensive move leaving openings that Itsuki exploited with careful timing. Even if his opponent could move quickly, Itsuki's superior combat experience kept him ahead, controlling the flow of the match. Itsuki continued to press his advantage, striking decisively, while his opponent struggled to maintain defense. The opponent staggered under pressure, nearly losing balance, as Itsuki anticipated every movement. With quick reflexes, Itsuki seized the moment to grab his opponent's bamboo sword, asserting control. The opponent was shocked, realizing he had been outmaneuvered just before his strike could land. Itsuki remained calm and focused, preparing for the next move as his opponent scrambled to regain footing. Itsuki launched a decisive heavy palm strike, hitting his opponent with precise timing. His opponent fell, and the referee called for the match to stop as Itsuki held his stance. Both boys caught their breath, staring at each other across the training ground, exhausted yet focused. The opponent realized he had lost to a younger, yet more skilled Itsuki, acknowledging his rival's strength. Despite the defeat, the boy smiled, inviting Harold for another bout, showing respect and determination for future training. Itsuki questioned Harold's defense, teasing him about his toughness. Despite using bamboo swords, he revealed that the final strike was a palm strike, not a bamboo sword attack, surprising Harold. Harold reacted with disbelief and panic, while Itsuki laughed quietly, appreciating his opponent's strength. Itsuki realized Harold was not only a rival, but also his little brother-in-law, accepting the dynamic. They walked together outside, Itsuki playful, Harold flustered, marking the start of a friendly but competitive relationship. Harold observed Itsuki, noting how he had shifted from hostility to playful familiarity after the duel. He reflected on his own weaknesses, realizing losing to a younger boy highlighted the need for more training. Harold looked over a scenic valley, cherry blossoms and mountains spreading before him, calming his thoughts. He noted the Japan-like architecture and serene atmosphere, feeling the world's peaceful yet unfamiliar essence. Harold recalled being reborn as the antagonist, now 5 months into this new life, aware that destruction lay ahead and uncertainty loomed. Harold pondered his fate, questioning whether he could survive until the protagonist completed the story and whether he could ever return to his original world. Overwhelmed by frustration, Harold struggled with self-doubt, feeling uncool for faltering against Itsuki, despite his determination not to lose. Erika appeared unexpectedly, catching Harold off guard. Her presence startled him, leaving him speechless and adding a sense of calm and intrigue to the moment. Harold stood beneath the cherry blossoms, reflecting on his weakness. He felt unsteady, realizing the real Harold would never show such emotion. Suddenly, Erika appeared on the path ahead. Harold froze, startled by her presence, unsure how to respond to her unexpected arrival. Elsewhere, Clara recalled a recent incident, feeling guilty for teasing Harold too much. She hoped to make amends for her actions. A friend advised Erika to show Harold some appreciation, suggesting that her attention could lift his spirits and ease his burden. Erika, puzzled by the advice, wondered if Harold was truly feeling down. She decided to observe him more carefully under the gentle sunlight. Erika searched through the garden, determined to find Harold. She refused to lose sight of him, calling out as she ran. Harold wiped his tears, struggling with his emotions. He tried to remain composed, hiding the vulnerability he rarely showed. A distant observer noted Harold's brilliance and strength, remarking how his confidence sometimes alienated others, including those who cared for him. Erika approached Harold cautiously, noticing how he had endured hardship alone. She wondered if he had always faced challenges by himself. Harold's unshakable courage and arrogance reflected his inner confidence. Erika realized that despite appearances, he confronted difficulties head-on and never wavered. Harold had never shown his weakness to anyone. Strength alone could not define him, yet he carried his burdens silently. He isolated himself, masking his vulnerability with pride and arrogance to protect those he cared about. Erika reflected on her desire to truly understand Harold. She wished to become someone who could see beyond his outward confidence. Standing across from Harold, she resolved to no longer hesitate. Even if unprepared, she wanted to support him fully. Harold noticed her determination. He realized that someday, Erika would become someone capable of lifting the weight from his shoulders. Erika acknowledged Harold's skill after their sparring match. impressed even as an observer, unfamiliar with swordsmanship. Harold commented on the duel, smiling and suggesting he lost the battle but won the war. While Erica apologized for overstepping, Harold struggled to understand Erica's intentions, unable to discern her true goal behind her words and actions. He marveled at how naturally Erica could speak to someone she disliked, masking her motives with composure. Harold felt uneasy, realizing he didn't want to be constrained by her presence, conflicted about their dynamic. Harold told Erica to step aside, claiming he didn't have time for distractions, asserting his focus on urgent matters. Erica asked him to make time, insisting that this moment was important and required his full attention. Harold begrudgingly listened, noting her polite approach and trying to process the sincerity behind her words. Erica apologized for her past behavior, bowing deeply and acknowledging her prior mistakes, showing respect and humility. Harold reflected, understanding that Erica's effort to reconcile was deliberate, even if he found her actions both bothersome and purposeful. Harold acknowledged Erica's courage in apologizing, recognizing the virtue that made her so respected by others. Harold, overwhelmed, thought to himself that her kindness was now directed at him, making his heart pound nervously. Suddenly his instincts surged, and he lashed out with a sword, pushing her away despite her peaceful intent. Erica's apology seemed meaningless to Harold, as he criticized the way she blended kindness with deceptive benevolence. He scorned her presence, calling her an eyesore and demanding she stay out of his sight, rejecting her warmth. Harold and Erica faced each other silently, tension lingering in the air as they assessed one another. Harold admitted to overreacting and taking out his frustrations on Erica, realizing he had been unfair. Erica felt she had acted poorly as well, acknowledging her mistakes and calling herself the worst. Harold criticized Erica's kindness, calling it deceptive benevolence, noting the strength and restraint required to truly observe another. Erica reflected on the subtle power of passive kindness, realizing she must understand it to grow and respond to insults effectively. Erica resolved to understand Harold better and to become someone capable of supporting him, observing his burdens closely. She acknowledged that she would not ask him to wait but promised herself to catch up, no matter the distance. Erica vowed never to allow Harold to face struggles alone, committing to be a steady presence at his side. Harold Stokes woke up in a Japanese-style room, disoriented and unsure of how he arrived there. Stepping outside, he examined the Sumeragi residence, noting the traditional architecture and peaceful surroundings. Though he stumbled slightly, he recalled being injured during a subjugation campaign, realizing he had been transported to Japan while unconscious, yet the situation felt uncertain. Erica Sumeragi observed from a distance, concerned about Harold's condition and silently monitoring his recovery. The elders reported Harold had minor cuts, a bruise, and possible broken bones, though swelling had mostly subsided. The elders discussed Harold's condition, noting his high fever and the need for ongoing medical care. Erica Sumeragi considered waiting for Harold to recover before questioning him about the strange circumstances surrounding his arrival. Yuno entered, bringing fresh clothes for Erica, signaling preparation for the day and daily routines resuming. Erica, determined, requested Yuno to teach her healing magic, hoping to assist Harold and others in the future. Meanwhile, Harold sat outside, nursing his injuries and a heavy head, slowly regaining strength after the recent ordeal. Harold reflected on his recent battle, realizing he lacked training and could not stay as firm as expected. Erica organized stacks of books on healing magic, explaining which texts were essential for beginning her studies. An elder scolded Erica internally, claiming her devotion to Harold might never reach him, calling her efforts futile, despite doubts. Erica resolved to learn healing magic, determined to be capable if Harold ever needed help. Harold considered whether to focus on physical strength or extend his training duration, planning how to improve strategically. Harold and Erica each resolved internally to work hard, determined to improve their skills and abilities. They reminded themselves of the importance of consistent effort, knowing that diligence was the only path forward. Far away, soldiers faced a dangerous situation on the Bina Plateau. Confronting a monstrous threat with caution, a commander ordered the troops to pull back, warning that continuing the attack could be fatal, but some struggled to obey. Harold appeared, resolute and commanding, ready to take action despite the danger, asserting his presence in the battlefield. Harold faced a massive armored beast, standing calmly despite the creature's roar and intimidating presence. He observed the monster's movements, noting that its bark was bigger than its bite, analyzing the threat. With precision, Harold dodged and prepared to strike, ready for the beast's aggressive charge. After defeating the creature, he instructed the others to collect the horn, suggesting blacksmiths would find it useful. Suddenly, more creatures appeared, casting spells toward the group, forcing the soldiers to scramble and retreat while Harold prepared to defend. The ground Punisher descended, a sudden attack threatening the group as Harold faced the oncoming danger. Harold stood firm, assessing the terrain and preparing his next move against the powerful monster. He sprinted forward with precision, positioning himself to intercept the beast while keeping his sword ready. The monsters charged in unison, forcing Harold to dodge and maneuver carefully as their momentum drove them forward. With determination, Harold aimed to end the fight swiftly, promising to strike the creatures in a single decisive blow. Harold unleashed Thunderbird, striking with precision as the magical attack hit the ground, affecting the battlefield. The soldiers and onlookers were stunned. Amazed Harold had taken down a hornhead monster all by himself. Harold demanded the team quickly dispose of the monster's remains, maintaining strict discipline despite their awe. He commanded Squad A to fetch the horn, while other squads handled the corpse, ensuring efficiency and order. The soldiers discussed Harold's strength, realizing his skill far exceeded expectations, especially for newcomers encountering him for the first time. The soldiers reflected on Harold's past, recalling that almost 3 years ago he volunteered for a dangerous subjugation campaign. They noted that although Harold had always been powerful, the Stokes family's concerns about potential injuries were valid. The soldiers discussed how, if Harold had been hurt, Hayden Sama and others would have acted decisively, retrieving weapons and managing the situation. Harold, listening quietly, remained confident in his strength and in the judgment of his peers. The story briefly flashed back to 3 years ago at the Sumeragi estate, highlighting Harold's history and early training. 2 soldiers carried an injured companion, shouting for someone to help as they struggled under the weight. Yuno and others watched in shock, realizing Harold had been hurt by a monster during a subjugation campaign. They guided Harold to a safe room, calling for a doctor or someone skilled in healing magic. The soldiers explained the situation, acknowledging Harold had protected them from the monster's attack, despite the injuries sustained. Harold, frustrated, scolded the soldiers for their weakness, asserting that if they disagreed, they should fight themselves. Harold dismissed the soldiers' apologies, asking to be left alone and emphasizing the importance of secrecy. He instructed them not to reveal the incident to anyone, and to ensure all soldiers were informed and cautious. The soldiers, embarrassed and frustrated, reflected on how pathetic it felt to be protected by the one they should be protecting. They realized Harold had acted to protect them from punishment if the Lord discovered his injuries, showing foresight and care. One soldier resolved to become stronger, inspired by Harold's skill and protection, vowing to improve in the future. Harold reflected on his combat experience, realizing he had grown strong enough to protect others effectively. He considered that countless monsters remained unexplored, and gathering more data could help prevent injuries among his soldiers. Harold wondered whether Tasuku was also progressing on his own, thinking about allies and their growth in parallel. He decided it might be wise to visit the Sumeragi estate, planning to combine his experience with guidance and support. Harold walked beneath the blooming cherry trees, his expression unreadable, lost in thought about upcoming responsibilities. He continued along the stone path, careful steps echoing as petals drifted around him, a quiet morning unfolding. Harold reached the estate and was greeted by a familiar figure, a trusted advisor, who praised his recent campaign efforts. Together, they discussed negotiations and strategies, reviewing methods to ease the Stokes family's burdens and implement new farming policies. The advisor noted the timing of Harold's future responsibilities, while Harold considered how actions now would shape the family's future. Harold smirked quietly, thinking about the engagement's eventual cancellation, while his advisor observed him silently. They walked across the garden bridge, discussing past campaigns and Harold's encounters with dangerous monsters during the missions. The advisor reassured Harold, noting that his repeated survival from severe injuries proved his resilience and skill. Harold and the advisor exchanged reflections on strength and growth, acknowledging their mutual respect and the lessons of past battles. The advisor reminded Harold about a message from Itsuki and suggested participating in the upcoming combat tournament at Delphi. Harold listened as the advisor explained the rules of the combat tournament, noting age divisions and safety measures. Harold smiled confidently, deciding he would participate and test his skills against new challenges. The advisor returned to work, warning Harold not to overexert himself while Harold waved in acknowledgement. Sitting alone on the bridge, Harold reflected on the tournament, potential strong opponents, and the risks involved. He also considered his distant relationship with Erika and the Sumeragi family, realizing he must balance strategy with diplomacy. Harold thought about the miasma in Sumeragi territory, knowing he must remain vigilant until the protagonist and their party confronted it. He clenched his fists, determined to prevent all death flag sprouts in the 5 years, leading up to the main story. Elsewhere, Liner Griffith marveled at Ocean Town Defet, amazed by the buildings, ships, and bustling population. Colette Ameller scolded Liner for his excitement, urging him to focus on signing up for the combat tournament. Liner sprinted ahead, leaving Colette and others behind, eager to explore the town and embrace the upcoming challenges. Colette prepared to retrieve Liner, who had wandered off excitedly, while Liner's father sighed at his son's restless energy. Colette received instructions to fetch Liner and then meet at the fountain after he completed registration for the tournament. She hurried through the town, looking for Liner, calling out as she tried to catch up with him. Colette stumbled and fell, but quickly recovered, helped by bystanders who ensured she was unharmed. In a quiet moment, Erika Sumeragi stood gracefully, observing the activity around her, embodying calm and composure amidst the chaos. Erika noticed Colette scraping her knee and offered assistance, urging them to move to a less crowded area. She assured Colette that helping her was not a burden, showing composure and kindness. Colette expressed her gratitude while being guided by Erika, feeling reassured by her calm presence. Erika's gentle demeanor left a strong impression on Colette, who observed her closely and quietly. Together, they walked while Erika explained her limited healing skills, and Colette realized Erika's quiet dedication and training. Colette was surprised to see Erika, noticing her calm demeanor and composure while assisting others. Erika explained she was simply an escort, not participating directly in the tournament, though she was present for guidance. The two discussed their friends and aspirations, with Colette supporting Liner's aim to join the chivalric order. Erika praised Colette's dedication and noted the strength and potential of the children from Blush Village. Colette reflected on her move 3 years ago, and Erika confirmed Colette's actions aligned with expectations, showing quiet approval. Colette expressed her thanks to Erika, attempting to repay her for the kindness shown after the earlier incident. Erika suggested forming a strong bond, promising that when they met again, their connection would allow them to see each other. Colette was surprised by the proposal to become friends and hesitated, unsure how to respond. Erika explained that if they met again, it would confirm that their friendship was genuine, easing Colette's doubts. Colette agreed to hold on to her feelings until their next encounter, understanding the importance of their bond. Colette called out to Erika as she prepared to depart, expressing hope to see her again. Erika smiled calmly, walking away while maintaining her composure, leaving a lasting impression on Colette. Colette watched Erika leave, her hands clasped to her chest, feeling the weight of their encounter and the promise of friendship. In the Grand Hotel lobby of Delphi, Harold waited patiently for someone's arrival, while nobles and travelers moved around him quietly. Dressed in elegant attire, Erika entered the hall gracefully, bowing slightly as Harold immediately noticed her punctual presence. Pleasantly surprised, realizing Erika's unexpected arrival, Harold's mind raced quickly while the three exchanged cautious gestures, politely acknowledging each other's careful presence. Unsure how to proceed, Harold hesitated momentarily while Erika insisted on taking a seat, maintaining a controlled but tense atmosphere nearby. During the meal, Harold carefully explained Erika's role in accompanying him for protection during the upcoming combat tournament, ensuring their safety effectively. Despite insisting he would remain unharmed, Harold listened, as Kazuki highlighted Erika's protective accompaniment, reminding him that caution is better than regret. Clarifying that a meeting was essential, Kazuki allowed Harold faster reactions if danger appeared, a proposal he considered reasonable yet suspicious. Remaining silent, Erika observed Kazuki and Harold leave the hall, while Yuno discreetly appeared to check on her safely in distance. Yuno inquired whether Erika had informed Colette about the meeting, but Erika chose to remain silent, protecting secrets with careful discretion. Erika reflected internally that Colette's survival must remain unknown, emphasizing the importance of secrecy and careful strategy throughout these unfolding events. Carefully standing silently on the balcony, Erika resolved not to question Harold regarding his secrets until he personally chose to reveal them clearly. Considering Harold's true nature, Yuno realized someone understanding him could become a potential ally in upcoming conflicts, offering strategic future advantages thoughtfully. Preparing mentally, Erika pondered her next encounter with Harold, certain it would only occur when he revealed the full truth. Carefully observing the situation, Yuno considered Erika's possible developing feelings for Harold, realizing future encounters might introduce complex emotional consequences over time. Accepting potential outcomes, Erika resolved that if Harold reciprocated, a romantic rivalry could emerge, and she would remain at peace with circumstances. Arriving at the massive combat tournament arena, Harold observed the Grand Colosseum, where elaborate festivities were prepared, taking in the impressive surroundings carefully. Walking through busy streets, Harold noticed taverns already full of early activity, while nearby, rowdy men began shouting aggressively, initiating a fight quickly. Reacting swiftly, Harold intervened decisively, striking with precision to prevent escalation, ensuring the conflict did not grow uncontrollable among the brawling men. His skilled movements caused aggressors to stumble backward, astonishing the watching townspeople, who paused to witness Harold's impressive control over the unfolding situation. Continuing confidently, Harold moved forward without hesitation, demonstrating strength and focus, while silently preparing for challenges awaiting him during the upcoming tournament events. Observing a drunken brawl, Harold calmly intervened, scolding the aggressors while maintaining readiness to act decisively, preventing harm in the chaotic street environment. The intoxicated men reacted with defiance, refusing to retreat despite Harold's warnings, determined to assert their presence, escalating tensions in the chaotic street area. Knights from the Holy Royal Chivalric Order arrived, moving with authority, capturing attention and creating control within the crowd to manage escalating public disorder. Aware of timing, Harold ran forward to confront brash attackers, ensuring no one would be injured while strategically controlling the sudden street altercation. Demonstrating precise skill, Harold struck one aggressor mid-charge, incapacitating him effectively, while maintaining control and focus on the larger challenges that awaited ahead. After the brawl, townspeople observed Harold silently, clapping in appreciation for his effective and decisive intervention, acknowledging his impressive ability to manage conflict safely. One of the knights approached Harold, praising his remarkable skill while asking for a clear explanation of events to convey understanding to the surrounding crowd. Harold recounted the incident calmly, explaining that he prevented one drunken man from crashing into others, ensuring safety while maintaining composure and authority effectively. The knight carefully inspected Harold for injuries, relieved to see him unharmed, as Harold assured him that no significant damage had occurred during action. Harold's mentor began stretching carefully, demonstrating proper techniques, while reminding him to always respect training, ensuring every part of his body remained fully prepared. Cody pressed Harold to retell the story, making him impatient, insisting that bystanders could offer explanations, causing Harold additional irritation and mental stress quietly. Cody asked how to manage people involved in the previous brawl, and the knight decided they should recover, allowing caution and careful observation strategically. Realizing he had forgotten Harold's name, Cody felt embarrassed and reflective, thinking about his mistake and how it might have influenced their prior interaction. Harold noticed Cody approaching unexpectedly, causing him to fluster and react with surprise at the sudden presence of a familiar character nearby. Cody's presence was explained by his Holy Royal Chivalric Order background, highlighting previous involvement with the protagonist party and his occasional participation in mercenary tasks. Reflecting on Cody, Harold considered him a supporting character, pondering how a relationship could have revealed useful internal information about the protagonist's strategic party dynamics. Wondering about future encounters, Harold hoped he could develop a better acquaintance with Cody next time, planning interactions carefully for potential strategic advantages later. At the arena, Kazuki greeted Harold, mentioning that he signed him up under an alias, ensuring anonymity while allowing participation in the event discreetly. Explaining the townspeople's role, Kazuki noted Harold's parents might oppose his participation publicly, emphasizing caution while still providing Harold the opportunity to compete safely. Preparing for his first match in the 13 and under division, Harold faced Malik Makia, with the crowd eagerly watching, anticipating the performance of the newcomers carefully. Harold questioned Itsuki's unusual behavior and suggestion to hide his face, feeling frustrated and irritated by the unnecessary theatrics presented in front of everyone. Observing silently, the crowd and knights watched, while Harold mentally scolded the name and mask choices, feeling embarrassed and slightly annoyed by their absurdity. Mentally noting the experience, Harold remembered the incident as a significant lesson, while observers found him intimidating without realizing his internal thoughts and reflections. Expressing irritation at Itsuki, Harold resolved to finish the match quickly, aiming to minimize distractions and avoid prolonged engagement with the annoying theatrics. Turning his attention, Harold noticed Colette's presence, startled by her arrival, marking a pivotal moment in the tournament and setting up future interactions carefully. Harold Stokes and Hirasawa Kazuki strolled through the bustling marketplace, choosing meals cautiously while observing the crowd with curious, alert eyes. Colette and her companion observed the enormous arena, filled with enthusiastic spectators. Kazuki spotted her, worry and determination clearly evident. Reflecting on his actions, Kazuki realized concealing his true identity brought unforeseen complications, increasing the risks involved in every move carefully. Noticing Colette's presence, Kazuki understood the upcoming duel would be critical, as the arena announcer signaled, raising tension among all participants. Swords collided violently, starting the duel. Kazuki concentrated intensely, strategically timing his strikes, while Colette parried skillfully, escalating the fierce confrontation further. Moving quickly, Kazuki's sword forced Colette to submit. She knelt gracefully, recognizing his mastery, while the surrounding crowd watched silently. The arena officially declared Kazuki the victor. He exited discreetly, pondering that Colette's attendance indicated stronger challengers could emerge shortly. Suddenly, Liner Griffith, celebrated hero of brave hearts, appeared. Kazuki acknowledged the looming confrontation, knowing destiny brought them together years prematurely. Concentrating intently, Kazuki prepared himself mentally. Officials announced the next match, and he evaluated the arena meticulously for any tactical advantage. Liner confidently stepped into the arena, raising his sword high as Blush Village's challenger. The spectators erupted, signaling intense competition beginning immediately. Kazuki stared, stunned as Liner Griffith unexpectedly appeared. He questioned Liner's sudden arrival, recalling the massive ship that recently entered the harbor. Considering the possibility of withdrawing, Kazuki feared the result might replicate the morning's events. Weighing the potential risks from the stands carefully, Harold reflected on previous disputes, remembering the Clara incident and deciding to act with respect, intending to prevent misunderstandings with Liner efficiently. Reviewing his interactions with Cody and the main storyline, he recognized that seeking friendship with Liner could avoid unnecessary conflicts successfully this time. Meeting Liner now allowed Kazuki to evaluate his strength and potentially form a future alliance, preparing mentally and strategically for upcoming challenges. During the duel, Kazuki analyzed Liner Griffith's movements carefully, contemplating how providing guidance could enhance Liner's forces and improve performance during dungeon raids effectively. Determined not to miss this opportunity, he understood that assisting Liner could create benefits surpassing those originally presented in the main storyline efficiently. Liner celebrated his victory in the match energetically while Kazuki observed silently, evaluating his skills and strategies, noting important details for future battles. Kazuki meticulously prepared how to approach Liner respectfully, planning words and actions to build trust without offending him during their initial interactions carefully. Directly addressing Liner, Kazuki called him Red Head, signifying the beginning of a cautious alliance, while carefully monitoring Liner's reactions throughout their conversation strategically. Facing each other, Kazuki and Liner assessed their focus and readiness, studying potential strategies thoroughly while tension filled the air in the arena intensely. Recognizing Kazuki immediately, Liner excitedly recalled his incredible speed and requested permission to learn Kazuki's technique for improving his personal combat abilities efficiently. Considering the request, Kazuki reflected on his own weighted training and speed routines, appreciating Liner's genuine enthusiasm for learning and self-improvement sincerely. Liner formally introduced himself while extending a hand. Kazuki reminded him to remain focused, emphasizing the importance of concentration over unnecessary verbal chatter carefully. They shook hands firmly, signaling mutual respect while establishing a tentative alliance, both preparing for upcoming challenges and future duels with careful attention. Liner greeted Harold warmly, expressing his hope for a good relationship, while Harold responded cautiously but shook hands firmly to maintain professionalism. Observing Liner, the other participants noted his skill and acknowledged it. Some competitors expressed playful rivalry, recognizing Harold's capabilities among the assembled challengers. Harold clearly stated he was not obligated to share his techniques, daring others to attempt matching his abilities, testing their confidence deliberately and carefully. Enthusiastically, Liner accepted the challenge, determined to compete against Harold, confident in his own skills and motivated to learn from this encounter. Harold cautioned Liner about the vast difference in their strength levels, yet Liner remained undeterred, resolutely committed to learning and improving his abilities steadily. Concluding their discussion, Harold and Liner acknowledged the attention they had drawn. Kazuki noted the subtle pressure expected in the upcoming match thoughtfully. Reflecting on the situation, Kazuki recognized that challenging Liner, destined to become the world's savior, made each encounter meaningful, worthwhile, and strategically significant. Harold Stokes grips his sword tightly, preparing for the moment he has anticipated. His expression is serious, reflecting the weight of the battle ahead. The arena is packed with spectators. Harold faces Liner Griffith, the next opponent in the 13 and under division. Both stand ready, sizing each other up before the fight begins. The crowd watches silently as the duel is about to start. Observers hold their breath, knowing the outcome could change the tournament's course. Liner Griffith steps forward with determination, signaling that he intends to fight Harold with all his strength. Harold calmly acknowledges the challenge, ready to demonstrate that his skills are not merely words. The duel begins with tension filling the arena. The duel begins as Harold and Liner Griffith charge at each other. The arena echoes with the crowd's anticipation. Liner strikes first, swinging his sword with precision and force. Harold braces himself, maintaining focus, blades clash repeatedly, sparks flying. Each movement tests the other's speed, strength, and strategy. Harold remains calm, countering every attack. Liner presses harder, attempting to break through Harold's defense. Harold parries with steady hands, showing skill beyond his age. Liner pauses, surprised at Harold's composure and talent. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if Harold could truly become a hero. Liner grows frustrated as Harold remains passive, dodging attacks effortlessly. The crowd questions why Harold isn't fully engaging. Harold, standing calm, considers Liner's efforts worthless. His focus is sharp, analyzing every movement with precision. Liner tries repeatedly, but Harold's defense is flawless. Every strike fails to make the slightest impact, leaving Liner exhausted. Suddenly, Harold shifts aggressively, catching Liner off guard. His movements are swift, strategic, and overwhelming. Liner realizes Harold's power is beyond his expectation. Harold asserts control, demonstrating that he can dominate at any time he chooses. Liner struggles to match Harold's speed and precision. Even with practice swords, Harold moves effortlessly, leaving Liner in shock. Harold comments on how Liner cannot respond, emphasizing the gap in their skill levels. Liner begins to realize the true challenge. Memories of intense training flash through Liner's mind. He has endured rigorous practice and sparred with skilled adults, yet still struggles against Harold. Liner acknowledges that despite his prior victories, Harold's skill is unmatched. Doubt and frustration weigh heavily on him. The duel ends abruptly. Harold wins easily, surprising everyone, while Liner is left astonished, questioning how someone so young could overpower him. Harold walks calmly across the arena, leaving Liner and the spectators watching in stunned silence. He questions why the match is being ended prematurely, challenging the authority of the official. Ignoring the official's objections, Harold moves forward, showing that he can continue regardless of broken rules or weapons. Harold approaches another participant, commanding them to give up with quiet authority, asserting his dominance without aggression. Returning to the arena, Harold picks up a weapon, signaling that he is ready to continue, leaving Liner astonished and the crowd murmuring in surprise. Harold addresses Liner directly, telling him to pick up his weapon if he still has the will to fight. His gaze is steady, commanding respect. Liner looks surprised, uncertain whether he can continue. The weight of Harold's skill and composure leaves him hesitant, yet he feels the urge to rise and keep fighting. Liner knelt quietly on the training field, his gaze fixed on the swords before him, while Harold instructed him to act. Questioning Liner's motivation for seeking power, Harold demanded an explanation, leaving the air heavy with tension and uncertainty around him. Considering his admiration for the chivalric order, Liner realized that gaining strength could allow him to become a protective knight. Meanwhile, Colette confronted a group of bullies attempting to seize her pendant, resisting fiercely while shouting for them to stop immediately. The bullies taunted her, holding the pendant high. Colette hesitated but readied herself to escape, hoping Liner would intervene in time. Colette fought desperately as bullies grabbed at her, shouting in protest. Though the attackers ignored her pleas completely during the struggle, one of the aggressors shoved Colette violently, her cries echoing through the area, intensifying the chaos as she struggled to resist. Liner arrived at the chaotic scene, fury blazing in his eyes, confronting the bullies to protect someone weaker than himself. The bullies jeered at Liner, doubting his capability as a knight, while Liner prepared himself to respond decisively and confidently. Delivering a strong retaliatory strike, Liner hit one of the bullies, causing Colette to feel relief and admiration for him. Following the struggle, Liner sat beside Colette, offering apologies for appearing weak while reassuring her that the pendant had been recovered safely. Smiling softly, Colette felt secure. Liner promised protection, providing her comfort beneath the tree as they rested together in peace. Reflecting on his previous weakness, Liner committed to rigorous training, aiming to become a knight capable of saving Colette and others. Observing Liner's resolve, Colette recognized his determination, silently appreciating the progress and courage that he demonstrated through his actions. Presenting the pendant back to Liner, Colette declared it a symbol of his knighthood and her enduring trust in him. Watching Liner with admiration, Colette silently vowed to support him in pursuing his ambitions, her gaze filled with hope and warmth. Gripping his sword tightly, Liner surged with determination, preparing to face upcoming challenges and grow stronger through every encounter he faced, focusing on those he must protect. Liner understood that to defend them properly, he had to become the strongest possible knight. Harold emphasized that strength was necessary, and Liner absorbed the lesson, reinforcing his commitment to power, skill, and heroic responsibility. Channeling energy into a surge of strength, Liner entered brave mode, feeling lighter, determined, and inspired to pursue his knightly ambitions. Experiencing an unprecedented burst of power, Liner finally felt capable of confronting Harold directly, confident in his abilities and preparation. Charging toward his rival with sword in hand, Liner prepared to engage Harold fully, utilizing all the strength he had gained. Their duel commenced with clashing swords, precise movements, and intense strikes, leaving spectators astonished at the skill and determination displayed. Silently observing, Colette watched Liner's progress, impressed by his growth and skill, her eyes reflecting admiration and astonishment at his improvement. Pressing forward aggressively, Liner forced Harold into a defensive stance, showcasing newfound power and unwavering resolve in the heated exchange. As his strength diminished, Liner's body grew heavy unexpectedly, making him realize that his previous surge of power had finally ended completely. Despite losing some power, Liner continued to fight, pushing his limits while reflecting on how much he had grown so far. Recognizing his progress, he admitted that only yesterday he would have failed to reach this point, finding satisfaction in small victories. Harold remained steadfast, reminding Liner that he was not yet a match, yet Liner refused to succumb to discouragement or fear. The pendant slipped from his grasp, symbolizing the challenge that remained ahead, while he prepared to continue defending those he cared about. Thinking of Colette's support, Liner prepared to unleash every ounce of his strength in the approaching battle, determined to give everything. Stomping firmly onto the battlefield, energy radiated around Liner, displaying his unwavering determination and refusal to surrender, despite the overwhelming challenges present. Concentrating all of his strength, Liner prepared to strike with every bit of power, determined to make a decisive impact immediately. Swinging with full commitment, he confronted Harold directly, signaling his intention to overcome obstacles and assert his capabilities fully in combat. Harold countered with the Nemesis blade, and the ensuing clash became a violent, explosive duel, testing both fighters' skill and limits. A colossal explosion shook the arena, throwing energy and debris across the battlefield, leaving the crowd shocked and amazed at the spectacle. The shock wave knocked spectators, including Colette, backward, yet Liner stood firm, maintaining balance, focus, and concentration amidst the chaos surrounding him. When the dust settled, Liner caught his breath, reflecting on the intensity of the battle he had just endured, completely exhausted. Harold approached, lifting Liner carefully, demonstrating respect and acknowledgement for the effort, endurance, and determination that Liner had displayed throughout the fight. Lightly chastising Liner, Harold remarked that if he had fought at this level from the start, the confrontation would have been different. Carrying exhausted Liner, Harold remained impressed that the young knight had successfully activated Brave Mode twice, defying expectations despite the challenging circumstances faced. Observing carefully, Harold noted that Liner's attacks and defenses initially failed to meet the usual requirements, yet he had persisted despite limitations. Reflecting on Liner's perseverance and progress, Harold realized the young protagonist might truly have circumstances, determination, and support aligned in his favor. Resting with the pendant clutched tightly, Liner received Harold's acknowledgement that his strength could eventually rival the older knight's, showing genuine respect for him. Harold Stokes stood alone, victorious, as the arena announced him the winner. His red eyes glimmered with quiet determination, signaling a new chapter. From above, spectators observed. Norman recognized Harold's strength and cunning, impressed by the unexpected display of skill. Norman resolved to approach carefully, understanding the importance of alliances. He decided it was time to stake his claim in the unfolding power shift. Meanwhile, Erika Sumeragi pushed through the dense crowd, struggling to keep pace. The excitement and chaos tested her endurance. Finally, she arrived, catching sight of Harold. A mix of relief and anticipation crossed her face, as new challenges awaited them both. Erika Sumeragi watched Harold Stokes closely, worry and hope mixing in her gaze as he stood firm. Harold turned to confront her, questioning if Liner was truly the one she trusted, his expression sharp and observant. Erika hesitated but confirmed, insisting that Liner was protecting her despite his small stature, her voice steady. She defended Liner with determination, asserting that he was not weak and had earned her trust through loyalty. Harold finally nodded, acknowledging her perspective. Erika felt relief, realizing her belief in Liner's strength had been validated. Harold Stokes walked beside Erika Sumeragi, his expression cold as he dismissed weakness and feeble ways of life. Erika followed silently, her thoughts weighed down by his words. Uncertain yet determined to act, she wiped away tears, realizing she needed to reach Liner and ensure his safety, motivation renewed. In the medical room, Liner lay quietly, recovering from earlier events, his presence fragile but steady. Erika entered, calling his name. Relief and concern mixed on her face as she saw Liner awake, ready to support him. Colette knelt beside Liner, checking if he was hurt. She assured herself he was unharmed thanks to Harold's careful handling. She asked for Liner's protection, hoping he would stay by her side, her voice full of trust and determination. Encouraged, Colette smiled, telling Liner that though he lost to Harold, he might surpass him next time. Liner hesitated, realizing Colette knew of Harold's reputation. He pondered Harold's influence and noble past. Colette explained Harold's past help to her and her mother, giving context and revealing his subtle, enduring guidance. Colette reflected on Harold's strength and noble background, impressed by his magic and composure. Liner recalled Harold's harsh words, but understood the lesson behind them, realizing the guidance was meant to teach. Despite his frustration, Liner admitted he didn't feel resentment, comparing the experience to lessons from his mother. He resolved that if they ever battled again, he would surpass Harold, determined to grow stronger. Colette decided to call the doctor and Orbital, concerned for Liner's well-being and ensuring he received proper care. Colette watched Liner from afar, thinking about Harold's strength and how much he had inspired them both. Norman approached with a cheerful proposal, suggesting that Liner join the chivalric order to develop his skills further. Harold and Itsuki appeared, curious about the newcomer. Liner stood silently, assessing the situation and listening carefully. Norman praised Liner's performance in the combat tournament, emphasizing the admiration he had earned through skill and courage. Liner's gaze hardened, noticing Harold's subtle reaction. He sensed tension and prepared himself for the challenges ahead. Norman explained to Harold how the combat tournament served as a warm-up and tested the town's strongest. Harold corrected him sharply, insisting he be called by his name, not Lord, asserting his authority. Itsuki observed the interaction, noting the tension and the complicated relationships between Harold, Norman, and others. Norman suggested having a long conversation, acknowledging the complexity and hoping to smooth over misunderstandings. In the tavern, Harold reflected on the tournament's challengers, dismissing weaker participants while recalling the strong red-haired competitor he had nearly considered inviting. Harold glared at Norman, unimpressed by his teasing, maintaining a firm and unyielding demeanor. Norman laughed nervously, observing that Harold seemed to have a soft spot for Liner, despite his stern appearance. During matches, Harold treated Liner differently, guiding and supporting him, almost as if coaching him directly. From the sidelines, observers noted Harold drew out Liner's potential, encouraging growth and strength in subtle ways. Colette questioned the age requirement for the chivalric order, learning Harold was only 13, yet already displaying remarkable skill and influence. Norman complimented Harold's talent and potential, noting how few could meet the high standards required for the chivalric order. He invited Harold to fight evil alongside them, presenting the opportunity as a way to pursue justice and protect the weak. Harold leaned back confidently, dismissing the ideals of so-called justices, yet ultimately agreeing. He declared he would join, asserting his own terms and will, prepared to act on his own vision. Harold Stokes readied himself for an important journey, leaving the familiar city behind while the carriage traveled slowly through countryside terrain, facing family concerns. He calmly conveyed that the prestigious chivalric order operated under the king's command, highlighting strategy, family legacy, and the dangers involved carefully. His companion doubted his motivations, suspecting pride in family status, but Harold stayed composed, leaving intentions subtle and undefined to avoid conflict. Reflecting quietly within the moving carriage, Harold contemplated his future path, deciding firmly that his choices would serve only his personal goals exclusively. Later, Harold explained how he impressed a passing knight during a public brawl, gaining recognition and opportunity to enlist at a young age. Receiving admiration from his family, Harold's accomplishments were celebrated, emphasizing the recognition of his skills and the pride they felt in him. Preparations for an elaborate feast commenced to honor Harold, marking both respect from his family and his upcoming departure's significance. He formally announced his intention to travel to the royal capital to join the Holy Royal Chivalric Order, instructing others on updates. Companions considered the challenges of distant communication due to his lengthy journey, understanding that messages might face unavoidable delays along the way. Harold reassured them calmly that urgent matters could be handled through the Sumeragus, demonstrating foresight and readiness for the dangerous path ahead. Concerned for Harold's safety, his companions asked what actions they should take in emergencies, while he calmly recalled previous subjugation experiences effectively. Imagining the worst-case scenario, they feared Harold's death, but he responded assertively, refusing to be treated as fragile or overly protected. Harold issued a stern warning, implying that any threats to his safety would provoke serious consequences, asserting control and dominance over situations firmly. Alone, he reflected on the prior conversation, noticing Zen's concern yet dismissing it with quiet amusement, remaining mentally prepared for challenges ahead. Considering joining the chivalric order at the earliest age, Harold recognized circumstances accelerated his timeline, reminding him why he initially chose this path originally. Contemplating the chivalric order's symbolic power, Harold realized others sought strength recklessly, but he carefully pursued this path strategically, valuing reason over force consistently. Observing human desire for reputation and power, Harold remained detached, evaluating motives critically, prioritizing strategic thinking, rather than following others blindly for selfish gain. With feast preparations complete, Harold maintained a composed demeanor while participating, showing calm readiness for upcoming events, and the attention his presence drew. Gazing out of the carriage window, Harold watched the landscape and waving companions, appreciating the transition between the familiar past and uncertain future. Upon arrival at Amaziel's royal capital, Harold took in the vast cityscape, mentally preparing for forthcoming challenges within the chivalric order's complex environment. Harold marveled at the royal capital, observing flying ships and bustling energy, realizing the city's significance as the kingdom's central hub of power. Walking through crowded streets, Harold carefully located the designated meeting place, ensuring situational awareness while navigating unfamiliar surroundings with deliberate caution and precision. Encountering an old acquaintance, Harold received a warm greeting, discussing the chivalric order and reaffirming his agreement to join, solidifying commitment and future actions. The companion made light jokes about Harold's reliability, yet he remained serious, focusing on responsibilities and prioritizing mission objectives over playful distractions efficiently. Reflecting on his status as the youngest enlistee, Harold realized he would meet talented individuals capable of influencing the Order's history. Planning strategically ahead, Vincent van Westervoort, vice-captain of the Holy Royal Chivalric Order, worked diligently at his desk, maintaining focus amidst towering shelves and stacks of organized documents. Briefly pausing, Vincent considered his upcoming tasks carefully, surrounded by extensive books and records, preparing mentally for efficient management of responsibilities and duties. An aide approached cautiously, noticing Vincent's intense focus, prompting him to respond appropriately, regaining composure and maintaining authority within the professional setting without disruption. Questioning subordinate Shannon regarding the day's training schedule, Vincent carefully reviewed operational plans, ensuring smooth coordination and accurate oversight of all organizational activities and tasks. Shannon hesitated while providing information about Cody's unit, catching Vincent's attention and suggesting potential unexpected developments, requiring his careful consideration and management efficiently. Cody arrived energetically to check on Vincent, delivering updates about activity within the chivalric order, while greeting him cheerfully and maintaining lively enthusiasm persistently. Vincent warned Cody that a newcomer's enlistment exam would begin shortly, instructing him to avoid causing disturbances while overseeing operations calmly and systematically. Suggesting Harold might make the examination interesting, Cody hinted at the newcomer's potential, anticipating unexpected developments and abilities that could influence the chivalric order's future effectively. Observing silently, Shannon noted Cody's boisterous personality, habitual energy, and lively behavior while remaining attentive to ongoing operations and the dynamics of interpersonal interactions professionally. Vincent reflected calmly on Cody's temperament, recognizing his wild nature had existed since birth, while acknowledging that Cody understood appropriate behavior despite naturally boisterous tendencies consistently. Shannon considered Vincent's kindness toward Harold, noting it might be excessive, adjusting her glasses and reflecting thoughtfully on the consequences of this treatment carefully. Vincent contemplated the unwelcoming environment for some individuals, realizing he personally experienced oppression and was potentially the most out of place. Recalling Harold's confinement vividly in context, Vincent van Westervoort stood as the vice-captain of the Holy Royal Chivalric Order. Kazuki observed him quietly on the steps, reflecting on Vincent's early rise at 14-4. Years earlier, a battle at Beltis Forest weakened the order. Justice exploited Cody's retirement and burned-out state, eventually dying at Cody's hands, leaving a complicated legacy behind. Kazuki wandered through the courtyard, searching for Cody. Confusion and worry marked his path as he tried to understand the sudden absence of his friend. Crowds surrounded Kazuki, drawn to his presence. Many admired his appearance, whispering about his charm and innocence. Vincent noticed the gathering and approached. Kazuki's attention shifted as the lieutenant prepared to lead, and the order assembled for their next mission. Vincent brought Kazuki to the order, explaining his presence to the assembled knights. Kazuki followed quietly, unsure of why he had been chosen. The knights murmured in shock, questioning Kazuki's legitimacy. Vincent tried to calm them, hinting that this was a rare but important situation. Vincent announced that Kazuki would be tested against Harold, treating the encounter as a kind of enrollment trial for the boy's abilities. The knights scrutinized Kazuki, noting he did not meet the usual age or experience standards, yet they prepared for the upcoming challenge. Vincent reassured Kazuki, praising his extraordinary potential, while Kazuki felt a mixture of surprise and unease at the sudden attention. Vincent warned Kazuki that underestimating Harold would bring danger. He handed Kazuki his sword, preparing him for the upcoming trial. Vincent promised Kazuki support for his next promotion if he managed to defeat Harold, surprising both Kazuki and the observing knights. He praised the knights for their battlefield experience and rigorous training, reminding them that their skills were valuable despite Kazuki's youth. Vincent smiled, emphasizing that even a 13-year-old boy like Kazuki could not be underestimated, leaving the knights impressed. The soldiers' attitudes shifted, inspired by Vincent's confidence in Kazuki's potential. The boy prepared mentally, sensing the challenge ahead. Kazuki prepared for the trial against Harold, reflecting on the opportunity to test what he couldn't during the combat tournament. Vincent encouraged him to give his best. Kazuki earned Vincent's admiration, impressing both the lieutenant and the knights observing the trial. The elite forces acknowledged his potential. He recalled past matches, realizing the tension he felt now was unique, unlike any he experienced before. Even in battles against monsters, Kazuki felt the thrill of facing a powerful opponent, understanding it as a craving for victory rather than fear. Harold's instinct for battle emerged naturally in Kazuki, and he boldly challenged any opponent, stepping forward with confidence and determination. Vincent confirmed with Lieutenant Cody that Kazuki could challenge Harold. The knights watched eagerly as the trial began. Kazuki accepted the challenge, expressing determination to give his all and demonstrating respect to Vincent before the trial. Vincent set the rules, emphasizing survival for both, and signaled the start of the fight. Kazuki prepared to face Harold. The battle started intensely, Kazuki moving skillfully while Harold attacked fiercely, testing the boy's reflexes and instincts. After a tense exchange, Kazuki unexpectedly defeated Harold. The knights and Vincent were shocked, acknowledging his skill and potential for future trials. Kazuki stood over Harold, signaling the next challenger. Vincent and the knights watched as Harold's defeated body lay on the ground. A knight stepped forward hesitantly, preparing to face Kazuki. The boy remained calm, analyzing his opponent. The duel began with rapid strikes. Kazuki skillfully blocked and countered, testing the knight's technique while maintaining focus. The battle intensified as the knight launched powerful attacks. Kazuki dodged and retaliated, keeping his composure and precision. After a swift exchange, Kazuki's skill prevailed. The knights were amazed, and Kazuki steadied himself, ready for the next challenge. Kazuki called the next opponent forward, prepared and calm, while Harold lay defeated, and Vincent observed from the sidelines. A knight stepped up cautiously. Kazuki studied him, anticipating movements and adjusting his stance for precision. The duel started intensely. Kazuki blocked and countered each strike with skill, keeping focus while reading his opponent's patterns. The knight became frustrated, struggling against Kazuki's calculated attacks. Kazuki maintained control, moving decisively and avoiding dangerous swings. Kazuki reflected on battle instincts, noting that his opponent's actions mirrored innate motions, just as he had experienced in fights against monsters. Kazuki observed his opponent, noting that the motions and openings mirrored those he had encountered in the game. He identified the knight as Knight A from Brave Hearts, confirming his hypothesis about predictable enemy patterns. Kazuki smiled confidently, anticipating the knight's movements, while the opponent's tension grew as the boy prepared to strike. The knight looked shocked and frustrated at Kazuki's mastery, realizing the fight was nearly over before it had fully begun. Kazuki taunted playfully, challenging the knight to entertain him with more effort, confident in his control and skill. Harold Stokes charged forward with his sword, facing Kazuki in a tense duel. Both readied their attacks, each aware of the other's skill. Kazuki observed Harold carefully as he began a ritual, a faint magic circle forming beneath Harold's feet. The knight seemed focused and precise. Kazuki analyzed the circle and noticed it glowed blue, indicating the water attribute. He realized Harold always followed the same motions regardless of the spell. Recognizing the pattern, Kazuki understood Harold could only unleash one water-based spell. He prepared to counter the attack strategically. Harold shouted, "Aqua, slash," as the water spell surged forward, but Kazuki anticipated it, ready to turn the duel in his favor. Kazuki successfully countered Harold's Aqua, slash, surprising the knight. Harold's spell dissipated mid-air, leaving him shocked. Kazuki analyzed the mechanics. He realized that if two spells shared the same attribute and class, they could cancel each other out. This normally occurred only by accident. Harold struggled to comprehend how Kazuki anticipated his spell. Kazuki smirked, showing he had predicted Harold's water attribute in advance. Harold launched a fireball next, attempting a new attack. Kazuki stood ready, calculating its trajectory and properties. Kazuki effortlessly countered the fireball, leaving Harold stunned and questioning how Kazuki could anticipate every move so precisely. Harold, frustrated, swung his sword aggressively. Kazuki remained calm, calling him a little shrimp and urging him to attack again. Harold lunged, but Kazuki dodged with precise timing. A silent observer watched as Kazuki's mastery became evident. The two faced each other, standing still for a moment, sizing up one another, neither backing down. Kazuki addressed Vincent, warning that fighting all at once would be troublesome, showing his strategic insight. Vincent and the observers acknowledged Kazuki's skill, astonished at how incredible his abilities were in battle. Vincent watched Kazuki, astonished by his flawless performance. He struggled to comprehend how a single boy could move so perfectly. Kazuki positioned himself with precision, dodging and blocking each attack with absolute efficiency, as if anticipating every move. Observers realized it wasn't just reading opponents' actions. Kazuki seemed to already know what each would do before they moved. Vincent wondered how an outsider could possess such skill, recognizing Kazuki used principles from the chivalric order's techniques. It appeared as though Kazuki recalled past battles of the Holy Royal Chivalric Order. Vincent's unease grew at the boy's extraordinary mastery. Vincent considered Kazuki's skill, realizing the boy's perfection might indicate he was a hostile force. He suspected espionage, believing Kazuki could be trying to infiltrate the chivalric order during the enrollment exam. Vincent instructed Shannon, hinting at a critical task that required careful attention and precision. He asked Shannon to gather battle records of the Holy Royal Chivalric Order from the last decade, covering all scales of combat. Shannon acknowledged, noting the challenge of collecting individual battle records, but agreed to start while investigating large-scale war archives. Kazuki launched himself at his opponents, moving with unmatched precision. He dodged attacks effortlessly while striking back, keeping multiple knights off balance. Kazuki's confidence radiated as he assessed the situation, acknowledging the fear he might inspire while remaining calm and strategic, ready for the next challenge. Harold Stokes woke up groggily in his room, adjusting to the unfamiliar bed. He rubbed his eyes, sensing the weight of the upcoming challenges. A few days later, he arrived at the Grand City, the Holy Royal Chivalric Order, standing tall before him. The castle's spires gleamed under the morning sun. He was greeted warmly by a familiar officer, handed receipts, and informed about his duties. Harold noted the paperwork he had to manage carefully. The grand hall bustled with activity. Meals were prepared, and Harold observed the spacious dining arrangements, appreciating the order's scale. Guided through the complex, Harold learned about classrooms, conference rooms, and the captain's quarters. He realized the castle held endless responsibilities awaiting him. Harold approached the barracks, noting the buildings differed from those used by veteran troops. He felt cautious, but prepared for the change. Entering the room, he was greeted by a cheerful officer. He confirmed that all the recruits were present and accounted for. Harold was introduced to the group, told he would share the room with the current 92nd term students, and reminded to follow rules. He asserted himself, warning the others not to underestimate him. His tone left a clear impression on the recruits. The students stared silently, realizing Harold had already positioned himself as someone not to be trifled with. Lieutenant Cody hurried to deliver Harold's temporary uniform. Harold stood by, observing the orderly preparation for new recruits. Harold noticed two students approaching during lunch break. The officer explained it was not proper to loiter without business. The newcomers explained their curiosity about Harold. They admitted they were the ones who had escorted him to the barracks. The group reminisced about past patrols and shared stories of battles. Harold listened carefully, analyzing the veterans' experience. Harold's calm demeanor shifted as he warned the veterans. His presence projected confidence, signaling he could handle challenges immediately. Harold's sharp tone startled the students. They flinched as he challenged their manners immediately. He criticized them for speaking politely, only to those they respected. The group was shocked, unsure how to respond. The students quickly introduced themselves. Irene, Robinson, and Sid identified themselves as part of the Cody unit. Harold stood silently, observing each of them carefully. His expression revealed he was weighing their reactions and intentions. The students questioned Harold's attitude, reminding him of his position relative to them. Officers nearby noticed the tension but stayed silent. Harold confronted Irene, questioning the authority of her seniority. His words shocked her, leaving her flustered. Irene and the others excused themselves, leaving Harold alone. The departing students waved, hinting at future interactions. Harold reflected on the situation, realizing that Robinson, Sid, and Irene might all be in danger. He calculated the possible outcomes. He recalled the upcoming battle in Beltis Forest, where the Cody unit would face overwhelming odds. the thought of their decimation unsettled him. Only Cody survived, ultimately leaving the chivalric order to establish the Frieri. Harold understood the stakes and the impact of the battle on their future. Harold recalled Cody mentioning his subordinates' names during an event. He realized he had never seen their faces before. The names Robinson, Sid, and Irene appeared in his mind as he studied their character designs for the first time. Harold considered helping them during the upcoming Beltis Forest battle, which would occur a year from now. He worried about the consequences. Cody had explained that enrollment required a full year before participation. Harold realized he had no official way to intervene. Despite this, Harold determined he needed a plan. He acknowledged the danger and recognized he knew too little about the unit. Harold reflected on the fate of Robinson, Sid, and Irene. They were destined to die at Beltis Forest, and he knew little about their circumstances. He realized that Cody's actions were critical. Without Cody quitting the chivalric order, the Frieri would never be established, affecting the story's future. Harold considered the consequences of helping the unit. The supporting members carried influence over the main story and could create worst-case outcomes. He weighed the dilemma, intervene, despite knowing they would die or maintain the timeline, risking the collapse of the main story. A messenger delivered battle record data to Harold. The information was quickly assembled, giving him insight into the upcoming conflict. Harold opened the folder labeled Harold Stokes Background Check Report, studying it carefully as he planned his next move. Harold Stokes stood beside his family, a solemn boy with his parents in a grand hall. A photograph of the family was examined carefully, revealing Harold's years of volunteer work for subjugation campaigns. In another room, allies discussed Harold's potential assignment, weighing the implications of drafting him into a unit soon. Colleagues noted Harold had just enlisted, questioning if he was prepared without completing the standard training. A senior officer decided Harold would join fundamental training for 2 weeks, confident he would excel in the final test. Harold enlisted at the age of 13, becoming the youngest in history, immediately attracting attention. Observers noted Harold's unquantifiable power, believing he required unconventional training to reach his potential. Documents and photos of Harold were reviewed, including those of Erika Sumeraji, to justify his unique preparation. Cody questioned Harold's techniques during enrollment, analyzing how he performed against standard expectations in combat trials. The results were shocking. Harold's fighting exceeded all predictions, revealing an anti-chivalric order level of skill deemed impossible by others. Observers discussed Harold's strict noble background and questioned where he learned his advanced fighting techniques. They noted Harold's faithfulness to soldiers and wondered if past tragedies, like an entire servant's family being killed, shaped him. Senior officers emphasized confirming Harold's background and human nature by placing him into a unit for observation. Harold's noble status did not automatically earn trust, as past defections showed the need for careful monitoring. Documents about Nohake's past espionage and secret leaks highlighted potential risks, prompting thorough investigation to ensure Harold's reliability. The officer admitted feeling shame toward Harold, acknowledging the weight of responsibility and past oversights. Cody agreed and prepared to move forward with the necessary actions to monitor Harold closely. An apology was exchanged, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation while acknowledging the need for cooperation. They reflected on the challenges posed by another officer who had been negligent, affecting Harold's progress indirectly. Cody imagined how beneficial it would be if Harold adjusted his approach, even slightly, ensuring a safer, more disciplined path forward. An officer stood alone in an empty hall, reflecting quietly after the previous discussions. He expressed gratitude for the support and guidance he had received regarding Harold's training. Meanwhile, Harold completed chores and small tasks around the training grounds, showing diligence in his daily routine. He followed a strict schedule: early morning exercises, cleaning, tending horses, patrols, and non-stop afternoon training, adjusting to military life. Harold was recognized by senior officers as a newcomer with potential, his presence drawing careful attention and evaluation from his superiors. Harold faced 3 senior soldiers who intended to teach him a lesson about proper conduct as a newcomer, he muttered to himself, reflecting on the recurring trouble caused by reckless or incompetent soldiers around him. With surprising agility, Harold launched himself away, leaving the senior soldiers shocked and unprepared. He moved swiftly, evading pursuit, leaving the seniors confused and struggling to catch up. Harold ran freely, contemplating Vincent's potential promotion and hoping his actions would influence the unit's improvement. Harold sat alone at a long table, observing his peers from a distance, finding the quiet tolerable. A senior approached Harold, confronting him with a stern expression. Testing his resolve silently, 2 of Harold's peers greeted him, trying to break the tension with casual friendliness. Harold reacted with annoyance, noting their presence as unnecessary and questioning their intentions. Despite his irritation, Harold assessed the newcomers, identifying who was out of place and observing his unit critically. During lunch, Harold's peers unintentionally splashed soup, drawing his attention and evaluation. Harold criticized one student directly, noting his cowardice and lack of courage, assessing him without hesitation. The student was surprised but grateful, having never received such blunt honesty before. Harold checked how others adapted to life at the facility, observing who struggled with senior soldiers. His peers offered support, promising assistance when needed, creating a tentative sense of camaraderie in Harold's new environment. Harold felt frustrated, thinking the situation forced him to interact with overly talkative peers. A classmate criticized his lack of charm, warning that he would struggle to make friends or romantic connections. Cody reminded Harold of his fiancée, suggesting he had no need for a girlfriend at this point. Harold reacted with surprise, his peers equally shocked by this revelation. He demanded to know how they learned of his engagement, questioning their knowledge while the group looked on in confusion. Harold was shocked to hear details about his fiancée, realizing others knew more than he expected. He reacted angrily, questioning how they could know about her, frustrated by the intrusion and assumptions. As Cody and others tried to calm the situation, Harold struggled to understand the sudden commotion around him. Harold Stokes observed Kazuki struggling on the training ground. Kazuki had yet to master the sword techniques, but determination burned in his eyes, despite repeated failures. Later, Kazuki walked through the academy halls toward the guidance counselor's office. The building's grandeur reflected the seriousness of the upcoming challenges awaiting new recruits. Inside the office, Kazuki confronted the looming reality of the final exam. His expression hardened, understanding that success was no longer optional. The counselor explained that Kazuki's strength exceeded normal standards, granting him special treatment. Graduation depended on passing this decisive trial. Kazuki acknowledged the advantage, but remained focused. He had recognized during enrollment that his path would be exceptional, and he intended to prove himself worthy. Kazuki confidently assured the counselor there was no need for bids. His calm demeanor reflected his growing resolve to face the final exam. After the meeting, he stepped out into the empty corridor. The silence weighed on him as he processed the counselor's words. He felt nervous yet relieved, realizing his assertive attitude might have made enemies but had earned him a chance to remain. Doubt lingered, but opportunity prevailed. Kazuki considered Harold's immense strength and the surprise of the final exam. He knew gaining more control over his actions would be vital. Looking toward the distant academy towers, Kazuki resolved to give his all. The day of the final exam had arrived, and he was ready. Kazuki faced Harold and the other recruits. Tension lingered as he prepared to integrate into the team, observing their expressions silently. Company Commander Sakris introduced himself and the judging officers. Kazuki listened carefully, aware that their evaluation would determine his progress. The final exam involved outdoor exercises in a monster habitat. Success required teamwork, with the Cody unit testing strategy and skill. The team began preparations for the mission. Kazuki followed orders, noting the organization and coordination of his fellow recruits. Kazuki joined Harold and the Cody unit. Despite wanting distance, he realized that surviving the exam depended on cooperation, and his focus sharpened for the challenges ahead. Kazuki walked alongside the unit, feeling anxious. The terrain stretched endlessly, and he wondered if he was overthinking every move. Harold encouraged him to stay focused. He noted that Kazuki's endurance and experience from previous campaigns made this journey manageable. Kazuki confronted Harold about Erika. Tension rose as his concern for her intertwined with his strategic thinking and trust in Harold. The team reacted with surprise and mild confusion, but the path forward remained clear. Focus shifted back to survival and teamwork. Suddenly, Company Commander alerted the group. 2 hammer treants were approaching. Kazuki and Harold prepared for immediate action, knowing their skill and coordination would be tested. 2 hammer treants emerged from the forest, their massive forms shaking the ground. The team froze, realizing the danger was immediate. Company Commander Sakris assessed the threat and decided there was no choice but to engage. Everyone braced themselves for combat. Kazuki ignored instructions to stay back, determined to fight alongside Harold. His resolve was clear, and his stance firm. The commander reassured Kazuki that the encounter wouldn't affect exam results. Kazuki, however, remained focused on survival and efficiency. Kazuki declared his intent to kill one of the treants if necessary. Harold promised to back him up, ready to coordinate in the battle ahead. Kazuki and Harold prepared to face the treants. They coordinated with the Cody unit, assigning targets for efficiency in combat. The unit reminded Kazuki to retreat if danger became too great. He nodded, understanding the balance of risk and strategy. Kazuki reflected on the experience and the team's composure. He appreciated their professionalism and recognized the respect and dignity earned from experience. The treant loomed ahead. Kazuki approached cautiously, analyzing its movements and anticipating its attack patterns. The treant struck suddenly. Kazuki jumped aside, narrowly avoiding the massive impact while preparing to counterattack, fully engaged in the fight. The team shouted at Harold to maintain caution. Kazuki moved forward, resolute despite their warnings. Trusting his instincts, Kazuki focused on the treant, believing he could handle it. Confidence and careful observation guided his movements. He launched a powerful balsam kick, striking with precision and force, testing both his strength and strategy against the massive enemy. The treant staggered, its roots splintering under the impact. The team watched in surprise as Kazuki executed the attack flawlessly. The treant reeled backward, giving Kazuki an opening to follow up. He readied himself for the next strike, fully engaged in combat. Kazuki summoned his full strength, unleashing the flaming sword. Flames engulfed the treant, dealing a decisive blow and demonstrating his mastery in combat. The team watched in awe, impressed by Kazuki's precise and powerful attack. The battle's intensity began to subside as the enemy faltered. The group regrouped, sharing brief gestures of encouragement. Cooperation and strategy had carried them through the fight successfully. After the exam, the team celebrated their success. Cups were raised, marking the completion of the final trial and their accomplishments. Kazuki stood slightly apart, unsure how to join the casual celebration. Despite his seriousness, he appreciated the team's camaraderie and the sense of achievement. Kazuki protested the casual celebration, still focused on grading and protocol, while the others insisted on marking the end of the exam. The team relaxed, leaving Kazuki slightly puzzled but observing the scene. Even in downtime, their professionalism remained evident. Harold reflected on his performance. Coordinating with the other troops and handling the treant revealed his capability and adaptability beyond expectations. He recognized the difficulty of his solo success against the hammer treant. His skill and timing impressed even the commanders. The evaluation concluded that Harold's combat ability was extraordinary. Confidence, talent, and potential to enter history as a legendary member of the chivalric order were evident. The team discussed plans for a grand celebration, though Kazuki remained focused and unconvinced. He observed their casual attitude with mild annoyance. The commander kept notes and watched the group, evaluating their coordination and performance during the journey back to the royal capital. Harold reflected on his own capabilities. The commander acknowledged his efficiency, coordination, and adaptability, noting how well he handled the treant alone. The team recognized Harold's combat talent as extraordinary. His skill exceeded expectations, leaving even the experienced commanders impressed. As they approached the royal capital, Lucas noticed something strange in the distance. The group halted, eyes fixed on the emerging anomaly. Smoke rose in an unusual pattern. The team speculated about the possibility of a new type of monster, with Harold quietly assessing the situation. Harold Stokes observed an unusual red plume rising far away, moving strangely as if it were alive, making the group nervous. Inhabiting Harold's body, Kazuki carefully studied the phenomenon, realizing it might indicate a serious threat, while the other soldiers watched anxiously. Seeking guidance from the company commander, Harold asked if anyone recognized the threatening red smoke, but the commander appeared uncertain and thoughtful. Acknowledging the uncertainty, Harold considered that his companion's lack of concern might indicate danger was being ignored, remaining vigilant and careful. The commander decided to personally investigate the source, instructing others to stay back, while Harold and soldiers prepared for confrontation cautiously. Urgently, Harold commanded his companions to retreat as the dark plumes surged forward, creating tension and fear rippling quickly through them. Lunging violently through the air, the black mass twisted unpredictably, threatening anyone caught in its path with potentially deadly force instantly. Swiftly, Harold pushed one of his companions out of the way, shielding them from the dangerous attack coming directly toward them. The soldiers scrambled hurriedly, witnessing Harold and the company commander confronting the aggressive, unpredictable shadow as it moved menacingly toward them. Bracing themselves, they prepared for the unknown attack, while the dark entity advanced relentlessly, causing a sense of imminent danger. Assessing the battlefield carefully, Harold and the company commander realized the initial attack's impact. While Harold urged caution and scanned for threats, the soldiers recognized they were surrounded by multiple dark plumes, each moving with purpose, which made them feel uneasy and unsure how to respond. Swinging his sword, Harold attempted to cut through a plume, but the shadow remained unaffected, twisting unnaturally despite his physical strike. Observing the hovering shadows, the soldiers noted that conventional attacks were ineffective, while Harold warned them about potential danger from the plumes. Harold identified a critical insight: their attacks couldn't harm the shadows, but the plumes' strikes could affect them, preparing the team strategically. Concern spread among the soldiers as one wondered whether their failing attacks meant they were destined to lose, filling the group with anxiety. Harold realized that escape was impossible as they were surrounded by dark plumes, forcing the companions to face the threat head-on immediately. Scolding the hesitant soldiers, Harold demanded that they prepare their swords and act decisively instead of remaining paralyzed by fear and panic. Using a powerful magical strike named Bolt Lance, Harold attacked the dark entities in a desperate attempt to turn the tide effectively. Observing cautiously, the soldiers realized that Harold's strategy provided their best chance to survive against the relentless, dangerous shadows surrounding their position. Attempting flame cram, Harold saw that the attack failed to affect the dark plumes, shocking the companions who realized magic was useless. Carefully observing the enemies, the soldiers recognized their overwhelming strength and agreed that caution and strategic action, guided by Harold, was necessary immediately. Launching Aqua / one soldier tested elemental weaknesses, while Harold and the others watched carefully to determine whether their attacks would be effective. The water magic struck successfully, proving that specific elements could affect the plumes, giving the team new insight for planning their attacks. Harold concluded that each dark plume might be vulnerable to only a particular elemental attack, prompting the soldiers to prepare with precision. Criticizing hesitation, Harold urged his companions to launch coordinated magical attacks immediately, causing the soldiers to ready themselves quickly and act decisively. Each soldier unleashed magic simultaneously: Harold's Bolt Lance, another's Flame Cram, and another's Wind Arrow, all striking the dark plumes with precision. Their coordinated attacks hit the plumes effectively, causing explosions that disrupted the shadow's formation, while Harold carefully monitored the situation for confirmation. Holding their breath, the soldiers watched as the dark plumes dissipated, signaling that the immediate threat had ended and the battlefield quieted. Checking on one another, Harold and his companions confirmed everyone was safe, and with no reinforcements appearing, they breathed relief after surviving. The company commander recognized Harold's quick thinking, noting that timely action was critical for the group's survival during the unexpected and dangerous situation. Reflecting on the chaotic battle, Harold considered what might have happened if he hadn't acted to protect his comrades during the attack. Realizing the consequences, Harold acknowledged that his near carelessness could have endangered everyone, admitting that the incident was entirely his fault. Honestly, addressed directly by a companion, Harold understood the importance of responsibility and maintaining caution during battle to prevent unnecessary danger or mistakes. Apologizing sincerely, Harold admitted his misjudgment caused the predicament, while his companions expressed gratitude for his timely actions that ensured their survival. Harold warned the company commander not to view his earlier mistake as a misjudgment, emphasizing the importance of avoiding the same error again. Taking Harold's words seriously, the commander promised to heed the advice, and Harold confirmed expectations firmly, stressing accountability and responsibility, moving forward carefully. Observing the battlefield carefully, Harold analyzed every detail of the monster encounter, while Kazuki reflected on his recent actions thoughtfully. Investigating further, Yuno discovered that the dangerous threat originated from eerie clouds, monsters born from the corrupted earth, part of Justice's plan. Concern grew significantly as Kazuki noticed these dangerous entities appearing unexpectedly early, shifting the story timeline and creating unpredictability throughout the region. Realizing the situation, Harold understood that these monsters had existed since the very start, though their presence within the story had been delayed. Kazuki worried constantly that if Justice's plans moved forward, original story events might accelerate, producing unforeseen challenges and extremely difficult developments for everyone involved. Revealing new information, Yuno explained that the Sumeragi family had improved antibiotics originally created by Liner, spreading them efficiently to control miasma across territories. Understanding potential consequences, Kazuki realized that accelerating events could disrupt Harold's enlistment, as well as affect the chivalric order, previously left unexplored in detail. Contemplating the danger, Harold carefully considered Justice's complex schemes, recognizing that serious worst-case scenarios could occur, necessitating extremely careful planning for survival and strategy. Appearing suddenly, Justice Frond revealed himself as the true antagonist, a brilliant mad scientist orchestrating destruction while maintaining a convincing deceptive facade as a prodigy. Reflecting on recent success, Harold and his allies noted that although the monsters were powerful, careful strategy and coordination ensured their manageable defeat, overall successfully. Curious about experience, Kazuki asked Harold if he had ever encountered similar monsters, considering how unusual their sudden appearances seemed within the current timeline. Explaining his insight, Harold revealed that intuition and prior magic attacks contributed to his success, possibly shaped by experiences during earlier home subjugation campaigns. Acknowledging his abilities, Kazuki noted that Harold's natural instincts and remarkable caliber allowed him to detect weaknesses effectively without relying on knowledge from the story. Observing differences, Harold pointed out that their ways of thinking diverged significantly, indicating that some important knowledge could not be shared directly with others. Despite lingering tension, Harold and Kazuki enjoyed a brief moment of camaraderie, exchanging playful teasing while preparing to face future challenges and unexpected dangers together. Noticing behavior, Kazuki observed Harold teasing another individual, causing a mixture of surprise and mild frustration among the group members during training activities. Confused by this behavior, Kazuki questioned whether Harold's actions treated him as a child, despite demonstrating considerable skill and rapidly improving in combat ability. Reflecting silently, Harold considered past secrets, particularly regarding Erika, noting that shadowy elements from the original story still influenced current situations profoundly. Considering strategy, Kazuki recognized that intuition frequently guided Harold's decisions, and prior experience allowed him to anticipate outcomes that often appeared unexpectedly during battles. Preparing mentally, Harold stood overlooking the city, evaluating upcoming challenges, while Kazuki reaffirmed his determination to face dangerous missions and unpredictable events effectively. Leaping forward with determination, Kazuki pushed himself into action, ignoring prior mistakes while striving to maintain focus and continue advancing despite previous failures. Landing awkwardly, Kazuki expressed frustration at failing tasks that had appeared easy in the game, questioning his own capabilities and understanding of combat. Reflecting deeply, Kazuki realized he was far from becoming the Herald of the original story, struggling to progress while planning how to reach justice. Considering options, he evaluated traveling to the royal castle and investigating Justice's Research Institute, hoping to find the best way to avoid detection. Worried constantly, Kazuki contemplated how to probe Justice's plans carefully, aware that even minor suspicion could result in severe consequences or potential failure. Debating strategy, Kazuki considered capturing Justice by surprise, but realized the scientist's abilities made it dangerous, knowing he alone could prevent the Earth's corrosion. Sighing deeply, he felt unsure about his next move, weighed down by the enormous pressure and responsibilities associated with confronting Justice and his schemes. Observing carefully, Harold noted that Kazuki was training alone, questioning why he chose an isolated location despite clearly demonstrating significant skill and focus. Explaining the strategy, Kazuki noted that training away from others prevented him from standing out at main grounds, keeping his exercises discreet and safe. Approaching cautiously, 3 trainees arrived, holding wooden swords, demanding explanations from Kazuki, while challenging him to demonstrate his intentions and respond to their pressing questions. Bowing deeply, the 3 trainees implored Harold to teach them sword techniques, expressing their desire to learn and improve after experiencing prior failures. Rejecting their request, Harold claimed he had nothing to teach them personally, leaving the trainees shocked and frustrated by the unexpected refusal. Reflecting seriously, one trainee admitted that during the monster confrontation, he had failed to act, realizing that significant improvement was required to match Harold's skill. Admitting guilt, another trainee acknowledged that they had merely observed events instead of participating actively, feeling a deep sense of disappointment for avoiding responsibility. Recognizing his weakness, the third trainee confessed that instinctively fleeing during conflicts demonstrated his shortcomings, leaving him disappointed in his own lack of courage and confidence. Considering his limitations, Kazuki reflected on inexperience, acknowledging that Sid and the others were more skilled, despite his possession of Harold's knowledge from the original game. Recognizing danger, he realized that a year later, these trainees would face deadly battles in the Beltis Forest, underlining the severity and stakes of the situation. Feeling conflicted, Kazuki regretted not sharing methods or knowledge, yet appreciated the loyalty, concern, and support shown by the 3 trainees in various ways. Resolving firmly, he decided that, if possible, no one should die during upcoming conflicts, committing fully to ensure that training and preparation had meaningful outcomes. Inviting trainees to spar, Kazuki planned to prepare them as thoroughly as possible, helping them develop the skills necessary to face the dangers ahead. Refusing personal instruction, Harold challenged the trainees to grow stronger by attempting to fight him, confident that they could not succeed against his skill. Accepting the challenge eagerly, the 3 trainees raised their wooden swords, ready to test themselves and engage Harold in rigorous practice to improve proficiency. At the Chivalric Order headquarters, Vincent presented the report to the conference room, detailing recent developments. He emphasized Harold's exceptional abilities, noting that despite his youth, he surpassed even the company commander in skill and potential. Vincent proposed enlisting Harold early to strengthen the order, highlighting his leadership when confronting a new extraordinary monster. President M. Fate Strace considered the plan carefully, agreeing that it was logical and aligned with the organization's goals. Yet M. Fate expressed concern that Vincent might be acting too hastily, hinting at unforeseen risks in rushing Harold's development. Vincent addressed the council, noting Harold's youth and potential for causing discord among his peers if left untrained. He explained the reasoning behind his proposal, emphasizing the existence of an ideal unit to guide and correct Harold. Vincent reported Harold's success in the enrollment exam, noting the resentment he had inadvertently caused among other soldiers. He warned that Harold was becoming a target of constant harassment, making it difficult for him to form alliances. Faistar considered Vincent's plan, questioning which unit could safely accommodate Harold and shield him from hostility while fostering his growth. Vincent confidently recommended Harold to be enlisted in the Cody unit, emphasizing the unit's suitability. He explained that Lieutenant Cody was highly charismatic and skilled at building relationships with subordinates. Vincent added that Cody was already acquainted with several of the troops and had recruited Harold himself. He noted that some soldiers witnessed Cody engaging in friendly conversation, fostering connections and trust among the unit. M. Failstram acknowledged the proposal, expressing concern over Harold's faults, but recognizing that the Cody unit offered the best environment for his development. Vincent acknowledged that Harold had suffered assaults and suggested punishing those responsible for his mistreatment. Vaystar Fame agreed with Vincent's plan, trusting that appropriate action would be taken and expressing no objections. The council discussed that Harold should be enlisted in a unit to correct his personality and protect him from peer hostility. Vincent stressed that this measure ensured Harold's talent would not be wasted, despite any reservations the council might hold. M. Failstraw Fem reflected on Harold's exceptional abilities, recognizing that Vincent's admiration for him had grown significantly as a result. M. Faistra Fem officially approved Harold's enlistment in the Cody unit, acknowledging Vincent's careful planning and reasoning. Suddenly, Commander Harrison entered the room, apologizing for the intrusion and noting the arrival of a promising newcomer. Harrison inquired about the matter at hand, seeking clarification from Vincent and the council regarding Harold's situation. He explained that he had come after learning of the difficulties surrounding Harold and wanted to ensure the boy's welfare. Vincent requested Harrison to be specific about his intentions, preparing for the discussion to continue with detailed plans. Harrison explained that Harold's assignment would involve patrol duty near the national border, a distant but non-dangerous task. Failstrafem asked about the personnel responsible for regular patrols, and Harrison clarified that reinforcements were requested due to current manpower shortages. Vincent noted that Beltus Forest had been unusually active recently, but no formal reports had been received. He identified Beltus Forest as the home of the Starchant Stellar tribe, hinting at potential complications for Harold's patrol. Vincent reflected on the tribe's scarce numbers and isolation, predicting that entering the forest would be a difficult and delicate task. Harrison explained that negotiations were ongoing with local tribes and reassured the council that their approach would respect the tribe's autonomy. He asked the council's opinion on assigning Harold to participate in the patrol, seeking their input on the matter. Harrison acknowledged the risk of sending Harold into a battle, questioning the prudence of involving a newcomer in field operations. Vincent explained that the patrol was not particularly dangerous and would allow Harold to gain experience and connect with other troops. Harrison agreed that this would be a suitable first mission for Harold, though Vincent internally noted the situation seemed suspicious. Vincent speculated about an upstart in the armed forces, attempting to influence the chivalric order, questioning his intentions. M. Failstrar Fem admonished him to avoid making such remarks in an official setting, and Vincent apologized quietly. Harrison asserted that, as commander of the military, he was fulfilling his duties and would not allow actions to harm the chivalric order's honor. He asked Vincent for his opinion on the matter, seeking careful consideration from the council. Vincent paused thoughtfully, acknowledging the weight of the question and requesting time to consider his response carefully. Harrison informed Vincent that the departure date for Harold's assignment would be provided after negotiations with the other party concluded. Harrison expressed satisfaction at being able to assist the council, leaving Vincent contemplative about the upcoming mission. 1 month later, a letter arrived at Harold's residence, signaling the start of his new responsibilities. Harold opened the letter, realizing it contained a progress report from Tasuku detailing his current assignments. He examined the report carefully, noticing a table summarizing the LP farming method's earnings and operational details. Harold reflected on the letter from Tasuku, feeling unsure about the future and leaving major decisions to him. He examined the LP farming method, noting that it was considered the Sumeraji family's invention, now offered to the Stokes family. Harold realized he needed to add a contract to protect the technology, preventing disputes with other nobles. Tasuku approached Harold, asking about the matter, seeking guidance on the next steps. Harold handed over a document he had received, passing it to Tasuku for further action and consideration. Tasuku handed Harold a report, explaining that it detailed the results of his recently completed final exam. Harold received the report with a mix of curiosity and slight apprehension, hearing Tasuku's compliment that he was now somewhat less useless. Harold reflected on the past month, wondering how he had performed and anticipating the results of his efforts. He opened the report carefully, worrying whether he had failed, yet feeling reassured that he had not been expelled. Harold focused on the contents of the report, preparing to understand the outcomes of his examination and what they implied for his next steps. Tasuku congratulated Harold, announcing that he was now officially a member of the unit. Harold's new unit welcomed him warmly, advising him to show respect while expressing their eagerness to work with him. They guided Harold, asking if he had gathered all his belongings and offering to show him to his room. Harold reflected on the final exam, realizing the sense of dread he felt had come true, solidifying his reputation as Harold Stokes. Vincent and others debated Harold's abilities, survival, and the challenges he might face, while Harold processed the weight of his new status. Harold reflected on the upcoming Beltis battle, realizing the Cody unit's elimination was expected in about a year, and wondering if it could be avoided. The unit received another notification, catching everyone's attention as they anticipated the new update. Tasuku announced a 5-day holiday for their unit next week, a rare break for the group. Harold questioned the purpose of the holiday, unsure why it was being granted at this time. The team discussed that the holiday was likely to prepare them for an upcoming expedition, suggesting it was a time to recuperate before intense fieldwork. Tasuku mentioned that the expedition would require traveling all the way to Beltis Forest, near the national border, surprising Harold. Harold's eyes widened in shock as he realized the distance and potential dangers involved, questioning what he had just heard. Harold lay awake in the Holy Royal Chivalric Order barracks, staring at the ceiling. He turned toward Norman, seeking guidance, feeling uneasy about the day ahead. Across the room, other trainees rested, while Harold wondered why he had to share space with the newcomer. Kazuki, sensing Harold's anxiety, reassured him gently, offering calm words as Harold feared the newcomer's strength. Norman suggested Harold avoid forcing interaction, focusing instead on his own routine, letting the newcomer's presence fade naturally. Harold stared at the ceiling, troubled thoughts keeping him awake in the barracks. He resolved to travel to Beltis Forest, recalling events from 4 years before the main story. The Salient Empire's disguised troops attacked both kingdom and empire forces, sparking the conflict's origins. The Minister of Armed Forces, Harrison, unknowingly aided the plot, controlled by the mastermind, Justice. Justice aimed to seize the experimental force known as the Stellar Tribe, setting the stage for Harold's future challenges. Harold studied the nature of humans and monsters, noting they all possessed astral bodies. The Stellar Tribe handled astral bodies differently, and Justice sought to capture them in Beltis Forest. During the conflict, Justice obtained test subjects, Cody resigned, and Robinson and others perished. Harold reflected on how quickly the original story had accelerated into chaos. Sensing danger ahead, he realized the eerie cloud confrontation might hasten Justice's plans, and the Beltis battle could erupt any time. Harold struggled internally, frustrated and unsure what action could alter the unfolding events. He reflected on his limited time, wishing he could devise a counterplan to stop the chaos. Outside, the barracks courtyard remained calm, contrasting Harold's inner turmoil and sense of urgency. Kazuki appeared cheerfully, offering Harold a distraction and inviting him to go shopping for a brief respite. Harold discovered that the person he sought had already left that morning, intensifying his feeling of helplessness. Kazuki and the other villagers discussed Harold's absence, wondering about his destination. Harold noticed a familiar figure in the distance, realizing someone important might be approaching. He rode swiftly across the open fields, urgency guiding his path toward his goal. Harold galloped through a landscape of blooming trees, racing against time and distance. He arrived at a village, greeted by a local elder who acknowledged his presence respectfully. Harold instructed the elder to fetch Tasuku, emphasizing the urgency of his visit. Inside the mansion, villagers and servants noticed something unusual. Sensing tension in the air, the serene courtyard remained quiet, offering a sharp contrast to Harold's internal stress. Harold reflected on the impossibility of finding his target during the day, feeling frustrated. He questioned the seriousness of his actions, realizing that nothing might change even if he intervened. Harold was invited inside by a mysterious figure, his heart racing with anticipation. He looked around the room, noticing the quiet, empty space, alert for any movement. A sliding door opened slowly, revealing the woman waiting for him with calm composure. She greeted Harold politely, acknowledging his presence after a long separation, signaling the start of an important encounter. Erica sat quietly in the room, her gaze distant as Harold entered, tension filling the space. Harold hesitated, unsure why Erica spoke so formally, recognizing that her words carried a deeper meaning beyond mere conversation. Erica explained that, with her parents absent, Harold, as a guest of the Sumeragi family, had to be treated with respect, and she would continue the discussion on their behalf. Harold struggled to comprehend, feeling overwhelmed by her composed and strict demeanor, doubting his ability to respond appropriately. Erica emphasized that proper etiquette preserved relationships and that Harold must understand, leaving him frustrated but aware of the importance of respect. Harold sat quietly at the table, observing Erica as she remained calm, seemingly distant. A kettle steamed in the corner, marking the tension, while Harold noticed that Erica behaved differently than usual. Harold sensed her disappointment, realizing that the sudden visit had unsettled her more than he expected. Erica offered him tea, signaling a pause, yet suggesting that something significant had occurred recently. Harold confronted the situation, asking Erica how she felt about being forced into this interaction, his expression serious, reflecting his concern and uncertainty. Harold questioned Erica's words, confused by her serious expression and the weight behind her statement. Erica considered how Harold needed someone to trust, believing that without her support, he might falter in his path. Harold expressed doubt, insisting that he had never experienced such forced emotions before, reflecting on his unfamiliar feelings. Erica revealed that with the help of her family and community, she had lived a happy life and was willing to assist the Sumeragi family. She gently suggested that Harold might have never truly considered wanting marriage, leaving him silently reflecting on his own heart and intentions. Harold confronted the girl, expressing surprise at her acceptance of his previous assumptions about her. Erica calmly explained that she accepted him because of who he truly was, not the biases or expectations placed upon her. Harold felt conflicted as Erica revealed that her feelings were influenced by his determination and actions. Erica admitted that her emotions were genuine, and Harold's presence stirred both admiration and envy within her. She confessed that Harold's commitment to following his own path sparked jealousy, leaving Harold surprised yet touched by her honesty. Erica told Harold that he didn't need to carry every burden alone, explaining that limits were natural. Harold protested, frustrated by her insistence, but Erica remained calm, emphasizing his need to accept help. Erica reminded him that there were people willing to support him, encouraging Harold to try trusting others. She advised him to pause, look around, and acknowledge the help and resources already available to him. A group of allies, including family and friends, stood ready to support Harold, showing that he was never truly alone. Erica reflected on Harold's need to find someone he could fully trust, realizing she was not the chosen person for that role. She walked alone along the veranda, silently acknowledging that despite her intentions, she might not be the support he needed. Harold remained at the table, contemplative and quiet, staring at the empty teacup, processing Erica's words and her absence nearby. Erica Sumeragi observed Harold Stokes carefully, reminding him that even the strongest have limits he must recognize. Harold sat alone, reflecting on his ordinary human nature, relying solely on his knowledge of the original story to navigate challenges. He realized that revealing his knowledge could put him in serious danger, so he kept his strategies secret to survive. Harold acknowledged his limitations, understanding that some problems required collaboration and that he couldn't succeed entirely on his own. He relied on Tasuku, Norman, Clara, and Colette, combining their efforts with his own plans to advance safely. Harold considered relying on Tasuku and Norman, but feared their choices might break the original story. He questioned whether it was already too late to influence events safely, lying on the floor in thought. Harold reviewed key achievements: Clara's survival, creation of antibiotics, LP farming method, and becoming the youngest in the chivalric order. Even while avoiding death flags, Harold felt conflicted, realizing he acted differently from the Herald in the main story. The looming Beltis battle tested all his strategies and choices, demanding precision to prevent catastrophe. Harold realized he found an answer by turning to the Sumeragi family for guidance. He understood that relying on others could now be a valid solution, as avoiding every death flag alone was impossible. Harold reflected on the risk of justice accelerating his plans, and the world's flow already deviating from the original story. He refused to let Robinson, Liner, and the others die in the battle against the Starchant tribe. Resolving to act decisively, Harold aimed to secure survival, delay Justice's schemes, and strengthen his allies all at once. Harold felt the danger of death flags constantly surrounding him, realizing failure could mean his end. He understood that overcoming his fate required calculated risks to secure survival paths effectively. Erika Sumeragi reminded Harold that relying on others could help, even if he remained cautious and strategic. Harold acknowledged the kindness of those willing to help, despite knowing some might hate him. With newfound determination, Harold prepared to act decisively, grateful for guidance, and ready to face the challenges ahead. Harold informed his allies that he would depart for a chivalric order mission to Beltis Forest in 1 week. He explained the mission seemed routine from the outside, but carried risks, especially as it was his first. Harold anticipated a likely battle with the Starchant Stellar tribe, preparing everyone for unexpected conflict. Tasuku reacted in disbelief, questioning the truth and the severity of the situation Harold described. Harold revealed a traitor within the monarchy, planning to lead the kingdom to war, raising the stakes of the expedition. Harold explained the mission goal, to capture the Starchant tribe, though there was risk of cruel experiments if they were caught. He stressed that ignoring such inhumane actions was unacceptable, compelling careful planning and investigation. Harold recognized the need for sufficient proof before involving the Sumeragi family in probing the Starchant tribe. When asked for physical evidence, Harold admitted he had none but had acquired classified intel through other means. He questioned Giffelt by name, revealing the connection to the information, catching his allies' attention and prompting serious concern. Harold explained that a source, rumored to be a fairy, could provide any desired intel for proper compensation. He sat quietly, reflecting on the information, prompting concern from his allies. Despite skepticism about fairies, Harold reasoned that such beings could exist in their strange world. Tasuku pressed Harold about meeting Giffelt, seeking clarity on the source of his classified information. Harold confirmed he had met Giffelt, signaling he had obtained crucial intelligence firsthand, leaving his allies cautious yet attentive. Harold explained that Giffelt, the master informant, is omniscient and gathers knowledge across creation. Tasuku considered that no one knows what Giffelt looks like, and his existence may belong to legends or fairy tales. Harold noted that Giffelt's tone implied familiarity with his identity, making the intelligence network plausible. Tasuku reflected on Harold's unthinkable connections and influence, realizing the depth of his capabilities. Harold confirmed that Giffelt exists in their world, surprising Tasuku and emphasizing Harold's extraordinary and unfathomable nature. Harold described Giffelt as a mysterious informant, shrouded in uncertainty, providing meta-explanations and system insights. Tasuku noted that Giffelt appeared at the most unexpected times, often near final challenges or dangerous locations. Harold explained how he could use Giffelt's presence to disguise the source of his knowledge from others. Even though it was a rumor, Harold recalled how Tasuku referenced a fairy, showing belief in the strange entity. Harold smiled, realizing that Tasuku's trust had been gained, making it easier to act on the intel. He decided it was time to move past the rumors and focus on the real pressing issues at hand. Harold stood alone on the veranda, gazing at the full moon. The ancient mansion stretched quietly behind him, its wooden beams creaking in the night breeze. He stepped inside, feeling the cold floorboards under his feet. Shadows of the room moved as he walked toward the back hall. The next morning, Harold joined a squad of knights preparing for a mission. Their horses were saddled, banners waving, and determination etched on their faces. His comrades reassured him about the journey. Monsters in the nearby zone were weak, they said, and experience would guide him safely. Harold frowned. He scolded them for carelessness and inattention, warning of dangers they had not yet encountered, asserting his cautious and serious nature. Harold noticed tension among the group. Erika appeared cheerful, trying to lighten the mood while others sensed Harold's serious demeanor. One of his comrades reminded Harold of his recent visits to Erika, teasing him. Harold responded with irritation, keeping focus on the mission. The squad moved forward but got caught in a tight space. Harold's warning rose above the commotion, urging caution against monsters. Tasuku and the others became frustrated with Harold's stern approach, but he maintained composure, seeking collaboration despite their annoyance. Harold reflected on his role, realizing his warnings were often ignored. He aimed to guide the team carefully, gradually earning Tasuku's trust. Harold sat across from a man in the quiet room, explaining he needed to give an opportunity for repayment, regardless of belief. He instructed preparations for an imperial military uniform, and arranged the transfer to the city where he would remain. Harold planned to wear a layer beneath his armor to appear less hostile in case a battle erupted. He explained that both enemy and imperial forces could be disoriented, unsure of who the true enemy was. The other man warned of danger, but Harold remained firm, questioning what would happen if several weak forces joined against him. Harold clenched his fist, determined to eliminate anyone behind the conspiracy. He considered weak conspirators unworthy of hesitation. The man across from him reacted nervously, calling Harold's resolve extreme, but remained silent. Harold requested time to gather his thoughts, focusing on planning carefully before taking action. He demanded the uniform be provided promptly, making clear he would handle the rest himself, ignoring any objections. The man reluctantly agreed, warning about danger, yet Harold's expression showed confidence. He asserted control, willing to act as long as no one interfered with his plan. Harold listened as the elder commented on his youthful energy, expressing concern about his future as a son-in-law. Harold was surprised, reminding the elder that he was not yet engaged to Erica and that the engagement had already been cancelled. The elder smiled, noting that he expected Harold to respect the wishes of both parties in any eventuality. Harold's eyes widened, realizing the elder's approval depended on careful consideration and respect for Erica's decisions. The elder explained that as long as Erica's will was honored, ending the engagement was acceptable, leaving Harold thoughtful about balancing duty and personal action. The elder noted Harold's unusual way of addressing Erica, prompting him to reflect on past behavior. Harold realized he had not formally recognized Erica by name previously, and that the engagement had been cancelled. He acknowledged that respecting both Erica's and the elder's intentions was important, preparing to act accordingly. Harold considered how he had always been careless with Erica's identity, deciding to make an effort to change. While on the mission with Tezuku, Harold worried if his conviction would be enough to gain Tezuku's cooperation, pondering the next steps carefully. Harold realized that moving the Sumeragi forces would not be easy, and that Tezuku also faced his own challenges. He acknowledged that time was limited, despite having moments to prepare in secret, and felt the pressure mounting. Tezuku interrupted Harold, warning him sharply, highlighting tension between caution and impatience in their dynamic. Harold noticed Tezuku's attempt to lighten the mood, but inwardly he remained focused and serious, masking his emotions. The mission's objective was clear: patrol the frontier and protect the Empire. Harold reflected on who would face danger first, questioning strategy and responsibility while staying alert. Tezuku noted that the scouting report estimated 30 enemy scouts, and the numbers were probably accurate, highlighting their vulnerability. Harold warned that the expedition was a trap planned by Justice. Despite the group's confidence in their larger army, he focused on readiness, silently urging everyone to keep their weapons prepared at all times. Other squad members dismissed threats lightly, contrasting Harold's seriousness, while tension and strategy hung in the air. The group marched forward cautiously, each soldier aware of potential danger, while Harold reflected on responsibility and the need for vigilance to survive. Harold looked at the town ahead, its walls and towers shining under the clear sky. Kazuki rode beside him, explaining that the town was connected to the Stellar Tribe, preserving fragments of their culture and history. Harold observed the surrounding land and noticed the Beltis Forest in the distance, a place he had never explored before. Upon arrival, Harold stepped into the town and paused, taking in the quiet streets and the tall gates. He realized the forest seemed majestic, yet melancholic, more like a luxurious graveyard than a vibrant location from the game. Harold stood at the edge of the city walls, anxious about the upcoming battle and how Tezuku's help might affect the outcome. He clenched his fist, resolving to face his fate and protect his allies no matter the danger. Determined, Harold decided to return to the station and formulate a new plan to ensure the survival of the Cody unit. As he walked through the quiet streets, he realized he had arrived in the same town again, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. Harold panicked when he got lost, questioning himself and fearing that such a simple mistake could endanger everything. Harold stopped in the empty streets, frustrated and questioning his ability to overcome the Beltis battle. He told himself to regain focus, reminding himself not to let fear or hesitation control his actions. Suddenly, hooded figures appeared before him, moving silently and surrounding him from all directions. Harold's eyes widened as he tried to determine who they were, feeling both cautious and alert. One figure revealed herself as Yuno, surprising Harold and signaling that familiar allies had returned to aid him. Harold realized Tezuku had already taken action on his behalf, surprising him with the initiative. He noticed the hooded figures standing formally, questioning what kind of operation they were involved in. Yuno stepped forward, explaining that they had been briefed to assist Harold in the current mission. Harold reacted in disbelief, unsure why Tezuku had sent them to risk their lives for him. The group knelt, formally pledging to follow Harold's commands, revealing that they were people saved by the Sumeragi family or without relatives, ready to trust him completely. Yuno explained that her life had been saved by the Sumeragi family, and she dedicated herself to them. She said that if Harold commanded them to sacrifice themselves, no one would object, showing full trust. She acknowledged the risk involved, emphasizing that Tasuku still sent them to support Harold despite the dangers. Yuno requested that Harold show consideration for their willingness and the sacrifices they were prepared to make. Harold realized the weight of their trust and responsibility, understanding how remarkable it was that they entrusted their lives to him. Harold thought about Tasuku's actions, realizing he was being given a huge responsibility and opportunity. He acknowledged the weight of the situation and accepted the responsibility, committing to lead effectively. Harold addressed the group, telling them he would use their lives carefully and that they should be grateful. The group suggested moving to a private location to continue their discussion more safely. Harold planned to have the allies arrive individually to avoid suspicion, noting Yuno's skill in coordinating everything. Harold noticed Yuno accompanying him and realized she was allowed to come because of her position as a babysitter. Yuno mentioned that Erika-sama had instructed her to obey Harold, reinforcing the hierarchy and her role. Harold hesitated, questioning her presence, but decided not to press the matter, understanding her loyalty was absolute. He recognized that having Tasuku's elite prot-feifeis as reinforcements was a significant advantage and mentally requested their full support for the mission. Harold Stokes arrived in the deserted town, examining the quiet streets and empty buildings, sensing danger. He met patrol soldiers assigned by Tasuku-sama, who explained their mission to observe the route and report abnormalities. Harold considered the scope of the patrol mission, realizing the challenges ahead and the vigilance required. Plans were set, meeting locations confirmed, and the group prepared for a coordinated operation over the coming days. In Beltis Forest, Harold and allies encountered the mysterious Starchant Stellar Tribe, unexpectedly confronting both strangers and danger. Harold aimed his bow, firing an arrow precisely at a distant target, surprising the patrolling soldiers. The arrow struck a bird mid-flight, demonstrating Harold's skill and alerting allies to the surrounding threat. Back in town, Harold sat polishing his sword, deep in thought and reflecting on the mission ahead. Allies noticed his unusual distraction, concerned that he might be ignoring crucial responsibilities or losing focus. Harold realized he had been absorbed in thought, unintentionally neglecting his assigned task. Recognizing the need for renewed vigilance, Harold continued polishing his sword, mentally simulating the upcoming operation, preparing for every possible scenario. Robin and other allies observed Harold, concerned about his fatigue from tasks he was inexperienced with. Harold noticed a sudden movement in the sky, realizing something unusual was approaching or observing him. Without warning, Harold quickly finished his task, surprising his companions with his speed and precision. Harold leapt into action, chasing the bird or threat he had spotted, fully focused on the unfolding situation. Harold instructed his team to retain Empire uniforms until the battle began, planning signals carefully. Robin introduced a Phalomax, a trained Sumeraji monster, capable of scouting the forest efficiently. Harold considered the monster's utility, realizing he could adapt to any resources available during the mission. The Beltis battle commenced, and Harold moved decisively, prepared for strategic engagements across the battlefield. Meanwhile, Harold reflected quietly, observing the town from afar, contemplating the next steps amid ongoing conflict. Several months had passed since Harold joined the Order, and his actions had displayed unusual patterns. He detected weaknesses in a mysterious dark red mist, analyzing threats with sharp perception and skill. Robin and companions speculated about Harold's intuition, unsure how much he understood from the start. Harold fought strategically, carefully performing actions that seemed roundabout, deliberately managing appearances during combat. Observers realized Harold concealed his knowledge of the dark red mist, hiding crucial insights from others for safety. Harold depended on investigation units to uncover the true nature of the dark red mist and its threats. Since departing the royal capital, Harold remained vigilant, constantly monitoring his surroundings during the expedition. He concealed his movements in town, maintaining secrecy while carefully observing every detail of his environment. Vincent questioned Harold's knowledge and intentions, pondering the impact of Harold's hidden understanding of the dark red mist. Harold silently contemplated, sipping from a mug, keeping his insights to himself while others speculated on his plans. Vincent acknowledged Harold as a valuable subordinate, despite uncertainty about his hidden knowledge. He reflected on Harold's character, noting that only a few months had passed, yet Harold seemed trustworthy. Vincent considered Harold's potential, believing he could surpass both Vincent and himself in skill and judgment. Determined to act, Vincent resolved to trust Harold, deciding to clarify matters rather than overthink them. Vincent ran toward Harold, ready to have a direct conversation, eager to understand his subordinate's intentions. Harold wondered how to break the ice, unaware that urgent news was approaching the team. A soldier rushed in, reporting an attack on a patrol unit, signaling an emergency situation. Harold realized there were many casualties, and that immediate support was needed to prevent further losses. he called out to his team, ordering everyone to prepare for a sortie and gather their equipment. Harold's companions quickly assembled, searching for him and following his lead as they rushed to the battlefield. Harold had yet to return after preparing repaired equipment, leaving his team concerned about his absence. He decided to search for Harold personally, fearing he might already be at the battlefield. At the stables, Harold quickly assessed the horses, searching for one he could borrow to reach the scene. After locating a suitable horse, Harold prepared to ride, acting decisively to catch up with the ongoing events. His companions noted his hasty actions, acknowledging that his urgency was typical but effective under pressure. Harold mounted the horse, determined to catch up with the scene and make it in time. He raced across the terrain, navigating obstacles, and ensuring he could reach the others safely. Finally, Harold caught up with his companion, relieved to reunite after the dangerous ride. He insisted on taking command, leaving Robin and other units under another leader's supervision for safety. Harold refused to march alone into danger, prioritizing responsibility and protecting his subordinates from potential death. Harold proposed turning a blind eye if his companion obediently retreated, seeking to prevent unnecessary punishment. His companion, annoyed, demanded Harold move aside, refusing to yield to his approach. Harold reminded them of consequences, warning about detention barracks if rules were broken. The companion remained silent, leaving Harold to consider speaking for both of them. Harold drew his sword, signaling a decisive challenge to assert authority over the situation. He smiled, confidently, declaring that anyone wishing to pass must defeat him, daring the other to act. Harold faced a crucial moment and reflected on his actions. He believed his choices were selfish, yet he remained determined to protect the future he envisioned. While confronting Harold, another knight remembered a promise made long ago. The scene shifted 20 years into the past. In a peaceful town, villagers warmly welcomed the Holy Royal Chivalric Order as it passed through the area. Beyond the town, a voice repeatedly called for a boy named Cody across a grassy field. Soon, Vincent found Cody resting beneath a tree, excited by news of the knight's pilgrimage. Vincent urged him to come along, while the tired Cody struggled to stay awake after finishing his piled up homework. Under a tree, Cody and Vincent spent the afternoon talking. Vincent pointed out Cody's habit of delaying his work, while Cody remained unconcerned after finishing everything at the last moment. As the discussion shifted to the chivalric order, Cody admitted he had little interest in it. Suddenly, a bird burst from the tree. Vincent panicked and grabbed Cody in surprise, turning a quiet moment into brief chaos. After calming down, Cody noted that Vincent had always been easily frightened. To him, such incidents were hardly worth worrying about. With the matter settled, Cody decided to rest. Before closing his eyes, he casually told Vincent to wake him again after nightfall. Before long, Cody fell asleep beneath the tree. Vincent could only watch in disbelief as his friend drifted off almost instantly. Hours passed, and the sun began to set. Cody woke feeling refreshed, and noticed Vincent had remained beside him the entire time, eventually falling asleep as well. As he prepared to head back, Cody suddenly remembered something important. The boys rushed toward town. Thick smoke filled the sky while frightened residents fled through burning streets, reporting that bandits had overwhelmed the local guards. Shock spread across Cody's face as he took in the devastation. The attack had happened immediately after the knights departed, leaving the town in chaos and confusion. Flames consumed the town as Cody and Vincent arrived. Amid the destruction, they discovered bodies on the ground and struggled to understand what had happened. Soon, Cody spotted his injured father emerging from the chaos. Relief briefly replaced his fear as he rushed toward him. After confirming Cody was safe, his father handed over a sword. Realizing the danger was not over, he urged the boys to leave before more threats arrived. Without warning, a monster appeared nearby. Unable to move quickly because of his injuries, the father positioned himself between the creature and the children. The attack came suddenly. Cody watched in shock as his father faced the danger alone to protect them. The monster struck without hesitation. Cody's father was thrown aside, suffering a fatal blow while using his remaining strength to protect the children. Frozen by fear, Cody watched the creature approach. The reality of his father's sacrifice left him unable to move as danger closed in. At last, Cody forced himself to act. Gripping the sword he had been given, he pulled Vincent along and ran from the monster. Tears streamed down Vincent's face as they fled. Meanwhile, Cody suppressed his grief and focused on keeping them alive. Eventually, the boys stopped before the ruins of their town. Silence replaced the chaos as they faced the devastation left behind. Among the ruins, Cody and Vincent remained seated in silence, surrounded by destruction. They struggled to process the tragedy that had taken everything from them. Time passed as daylight faded into night. Neither boy moved from the shattered building, trapped in grief and exhaustion. Eventually, memories of his father's final moments resurfaced. Cody tried to suppress them, but the words urging him to survive continued to echo in his mind. Unable to endure the pain, he shouted into the empty ruins. The grief he had been holding back finally burst out. Tears streamed down his face as he trembled. Then, a sudden sound nearby snapped his attention away from the memories. While Vincent slept nearby, Cody gripped the sword and considered their situation. Fear filled his mind as he wondered what would happen if he died as well. Surrounded by ruins, hunger and despair weighed heavily on them. Cody briefly thought death might be easier than continuing through such suffering. Instead of deciding for Vincent, Cody forced him to confront the choice. The question of whether to give up or keep living hung between them. Trembling with tears, Vincent finally admitted his true feelings. Despite everything that had happened, he wanted to survive. Hearing that answer, Cody quietly accepted it. Determined to protect his friend, he chose to keep moving forward beside him. As Vincent cried, Cody comforted him. Though he could not fully understand Vincent's fear of death, he accepted those feelings and stayed by his side. Gradually, Cody realized Vincent's weakness allowed him to understand suffering that he had never experienced himself. Standing before the ruined town, Cody acknowledged Vincent's courage. While embracing his friend, he found a new reason to keep moving forward. After losing everything, Cody and Vincent struggled to survive. They searched ruined homes, hunted monsters, stole when necessary, and fought anyone who threatened them. Eventually, the boys reached a slum where survival remained difficult. When questioned, they revealed their age and experience. Despite being only 10 years old, they had already survived countless battles and monster hunts. Impressed by their determination, the commander accepted them. From that day, they became part of his forces and received regular duties. Later, Cody returned with food for both of them. Though the amount was small, it marked another day survived together. While sharing a simple meal, Cody reflected on their life as mercenaries. Fighting and taking from others had become the only way he knew to survive. Soon afterward, he stepped outside alone. Vincent watched him leave, sensing the heavy thoughts weighing on his friend. As Cody walked through the settlement, his expression remained dark. The hardships they had endured left him questioning the path he had chosen. Meanwhile, Vincent looked at Cody differently. The frightened boy from the past had grown into someone far stronger than before. Yet Cody carried a different burden. Deep down, he regretted becoming the reason Vincent wore such a troubled expression. 3 years later, Cody faced defeat during a battle. Exhausted and wounded, he believed a single mistake had brought him to the edge of death. As Cody prepared for the worst, a figure suddenly intervened. The unexpected arrival stopped the attack before it could finish him. To his surprise, the person standing before him was Vincent, no longer the frightened child from years ago. Vincent now faced danger without hesitation. Despite his own injuries, Vincent supported Cody and helped him leave the battlefield. Together, they headed back toward their camp. After reaching safety, Cody reflected on what had happened. For the first time, Vincent had become the one protecting him. After being saved, Vincent reflected on his actions. For the first time, he realized that his strength could be used to protect others rather than simply survive. Hearing that thought, Cody offered a different path. Instead of fighting only for themselves, he encouraged Vincent to help more people. The idea surprised Vincent. Cody explained that joining the chivalric order would allow him to protect countless lives with his abilities. Although Vincent hesitated, Cody reminded him how much he had already overcome. Compared to their past hardships, this challenge seemed small. Finally, Cody praised Vincent's talent and potential. He believed Vincent's strength came from his own efforts, not his background. Cody urged Vincent to choose a different path. Rather than living by violence alone, he encouraged him to use his strength to protect others. Although Cody shared his hopes, he left the final decision to Vincent. The choice would belong to Vincent alone. For a moment, Vincent reflected on the past. The conversation reminded him of the days when Cody had guided him through despair. At last, Vincent reached his answer. Determined to change the unfair world around him, he chose to pursue a greater purpose. Recalling the tragedy that shaped them, Vincent dreamed of a future where no child suffered as they had, yet he knew he could not achieve it without Cody's support. Cody continued encouraging Vincent, suggesting that his strength could serve a greater purpose. Rather than praising his abilities, Vincent credited Cody for helping him survive the hardships they had endured together. Gratitude shaped his response. With renewed determination, Cody extended his hand and shared his hope for a future they could build together. After a brief silence, Vincent accepted the offered hand. The gesture marked his decision to move forward alongside Cody. Their agreement settled the matter. Before pursuing their dream of changing the world, both understood they first needed to survive the battle still before them. Cody and another armored fighter faced each other on the battlefield. Both prepared their weapons, knowing neither intended to back down. Moments later, the clash began. Steel struck steel as the opponent launched a fierce attack, while Cody defended himself and searched for an opening. During the fight, Cody realized the enemy had followed him after he ignored orders to return. Despite needing to reach his allies, Cody chose to end the battle quickly. He focused his strength and prepared a special sword technique. A sudden burst of power sent him forward at high speed. The opponent barely reacted before Cody closed the distance, and their duel entered a far more dangerous stage. During the duel, the opponent claimed he only lived for himself and had no interest in dreams or attachments. As their blades met again, Cody asked whether the fighter had trusted companions. The question caught his opponent's attention despite the ongoing battle. After another exchange, Cody explained that achieving difficult goals required reliable allies. The opponent immediately rejected the idea, insisting that depending on others was weakness, and that such support had never existed for him. Rather than arguing further, Cody reflected on human nature. He recognized that people were fragile, yet their ability to help one another was what allowed them to become stronger. While continuing the battle, Cody questioned his opponent's purpose and compared his reckless path to a dream once shared by Vincent. Instead of pressing the attack, Cody urged him to protect himself first. He suggested that people with similar goals could stand together rather than fight alone. Remembering a promise made long ago, the opponent revealed his desire for a world where children would no longer suffer as they had. Determination returned to him. Changing his stance, he unleashed a lightning, fast sword technique that surprised Cody. Cody recognized the fighter's remarkable talent. The duel continued, but his respect for his opponent grew significantly. The opposing fighter analyzed Cody's abilities and realized direct attacks were becoming ineffective. Meanwhile, Cody endured the pressure and maintained his defense. His opponent searched for a decisive move before the mission could collapse. Determined to finish the battle quickly, the fighter unleashed a powerful lightning-based technique. Energy surged across the battlefield as the attack rushed toward Cody. Cody reacted immediately and refused to give ground. He prepared a response while carefully watching his opponent's movements. A rapid exchange of elemental techniques followed. Fire, wind, and lightning collided in succession, forcing both combatants to reveal more of their strength as the intense duel continued. Harold's combined elemental attack unexpectedly merged together, creating a far stronger assault. The attack was successfully deflected, surprising Harold. Cody's defense revealed a level of magical control that had not appeared earlier in the battle. Before Cody could recover, Harold rushed forward and launched a swift counterattack. Experience and confidence allowed him to keep the pressure on his opponent. Relentless strikes followed from every direction. Cody struggled to read Harold's movements as the pace of the fight increased dramatically. Assessing the situation, Harold concluded that reinforcements were approaching and decided to end the battle quickly. Harold maintained relentless pressure in the battle, leaving his opponent unable to recover or launch an effective counterattack. Meanwhile, far from the battlefield, Yuno received news that the scouting group monitoring the chivalric order would soon return. After considering the report, she decided the group should remain at their location and wait patiently for Harold's arrival before taking any further action. Although questioned about her thoughts, Yuno concealed her concerns behind a calm expression, choosing to keep her true feelings to herself for the moment. Harold's relentless attacks pushed his opponent into a difficult position. Unable to counter effectively, the young fighter realized that remaining at close range would eventually lead to defeat and began searching for another option. Without slowing down, Harold unleashed a powerful sword technique and continued advancing. A devastating follow-up attack struck the battlefield, tearing through the ground and creating a massive explosion. Despite the destruction, the younger fighter refused to surrender. Frustration grew as he faced an opponent who remained calm and firmly in control. From above the shattered terrain, Harold pointed out the reality of the situation. Surrounded by the damage caused by their clash, amid the ruined battlefield, the younger fighter realized he was being overwhelmed. Harold refused to give him any chance to escape. Pressing forward with constant attacks, he kept his opponent trapped and steadily pushed him toward defeat. Determination replaced panic as the younger fighter resolved not to share the tragic fate he remembered. A sudden action caught Harold off guard. The battle's rhythm broke as the younger fighter created an unexpected opening between them. Instead of continuing the clash, he abandoned his weapon and stepped back. The decision surprised Harold and briefly halted the fierce confrontation. After the fierce battle ended, Harold checked whether the younger fighter was still standing. Moments later, hidden allies emerged from the battlefield and surrounded Harold. The younger fighter realized victory had not been earned alone, as the reinforcements had secured the final advantage. Rather than taking full credit, he acknowledged the help he received. Humility replaced tension, as he admitted the outcome would have been different without support. Hearing that, Harold reflected on the situation and began to understand the value of relying on others. Soon, laughter replaced hostility, and the former enemies shared a rare moment of relief after the conflict. After the battle, Harold laughed at the idea of not needing companions. The younger fighter questioned his actions and tried to understand why hidden allies had been involved from the beginning. Standing among the cloaked girls, Harold revealed that their presence had been part of his strategy. Meanwhile, the girls prepared to leave while Harold reflected on the risks he had taken by trusting them with an important task. He then explained how his earlier attack had served as a signal. Creating dust and difficult terrain reduced his opponent's advantage and bought time for help to arrive. Because of that plan, the allies reached him in time and saved his life. Their success ended with Harold humorously captured by the very companions he trusted. After the battle, the younger fighter mocked Harold's earlier claims and questioned his decisions. The discussion shifted toward responsibility. The young warrior insisted that leadership required concern for comrades, while Harold listened without dismissing the argument. Bound but thoughtful, Harold considered the situation. He realized that acting sooner might have prevented losses and changed the outcome of the conflict. Trusting Cody's judgment, Harold decided to leave the remaining mission in his hands. With renewed determination, Cody headed toward the battlefield to protect those still in danger. Later, a reconnaissance team returned and delivered its report. Their findings revealed heavy casualties on both sides, confirming that the conflict had spread far beyond a single battle. The commander quickly assessed the situation. Learning that both sides had suffered heavily, a plan was formed immediately. The group divided their responsibilities, with one team protecting the tribe while another focused on intercepting those manipulating the battle from the shadows. Since the orders were given, the commander reflected on the losses. Despite his efforts, he felt responsible for the suffering and wondered whether greater strength could have changed the outcome. Nearby, a companion silently listened to his concerns. Her presence offered quiet support while he struggled with his doubts. In the end, he acknowledged his limitations. Rather than carrying every burden alone, Harold gathered the cloaked group and challenged their willingness to risk their lives. Realizing their loyalty placed a heavy responsibility on him, instead of accepting blind sacrifice, he declared that their lives mattered, determined to protect them. He took responsibility for their survival and urged them to remember his words. With his decision made, Harold stepped forward confidently. His resolve inspired the others, who quickly prepared to follow his lead into the next mission. Moments later, the group moved out together. United by trust and purpose, they advanced toward their objective with renewed determination.